All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Welcome to All Politics Local. Sorry we're a little late getting started, but welcome to the show. We're going to obviously talk first up tonight about the big march that's upcoming, and we're going to talk about that with none other than the chairman himself from the People's Organization for Progress. So we're going to do that first, and then coming up around 7:30, we're going to talk to the National Committee, Marilyn Davis, who is running to be the next chair of the DNC. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk with Marquis Hawkins, the mayor of California City, on the California fires. And then at 8:30, of course, we're going to talk with DJ Rhino about the state of hip hop. He's got a couple of guests that he's going to be bringing in, so we'll talk with them as well. So tonight, of course, you all know that this Saturday is going to be the march around Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. It's an annual march that our brother does. So hopefully we can talk to perhaps our brother, and maybe talk with some of the other leaders as well that are going to be in the march, and perhaps talk a little bit about the book, Where Do We Go From Here, Dr. King's last book, and hopefully get you all fired up and rallied up for the march tomorrow. I know Kim and I are looking forward to it, and I think that if there's one thing that we can do, I think that for that Dr. King weekend. I know back in the day when I was younger, a lot of young folks would see that as a party weekend. One of the things that happens as you get older, you begin to understand what Dr. King was really fighting for, and what it was really all about, and of course his birthday. So for us, we're excited. We hope that you all will see that as an opportunity to come out and get involved, particularly in our city. So you know that our brother Chairman Hamm is no stranger to this site. He's actually part of the All Politics Local family. So we're definitely going to get into um, talking with our brother. So peace, Larry. How's everything, brother?
Peace, brother. I want you to know this is apple juice.
Uh,
Because I know somebody's gonna say, is he drinking beer?
yeah, yeah. Apple juice has another way of working too, brother, to help you. When I was training for fights, instead of taking enemas or anything like that, we would
Uh-huh.
whole quart of apple juice, brother, the night before
Wow.
to make weight, right? To make sure you was cleaned out before you got on the scale.
Isn't that something?
Yep. And then you go get on the scale and then you make weight, you know?
That's the first time I've heard that. You taught me something tonight. I did not know boxers did that.
Yep. Yep. We would do it. My trainer he would bring a quart of apple juice to everybody's room because, I mean, if you didn't make weight, especially if you was professional, you had to pay for that. For every pound cost you some dollars on your contract.
Wow.
And remember, the
Wow.
other fighter has to accept that. He has to be willing to accept the fact that you're overweight. Because
Mm.
if he's not willing to accept it, he can say no fight, right? Which messes the promotion up. Or, he can say, okay, I'm willing to accept that over a certain limit, but I want, let's say, $10,000 a pound, you know.
Wow.
So, you have to pay him for all of those pounds, right?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So the apple juice was like magic, brother. You know what I mean? You know, and
Wow.
and you enjoyed that because that apple juice was sweet. So
It's very sweet. It's
yeah.
very sweet.
So as a fighter, you enjoyed being able to get that quart of apple juice at night. You know what I mean? And, and then get on the scale because it was like getting some apple candy or something, man. But yeah, Larry. So what's happening? Let me ask you a question. Are we gonna be able to get in touch with any of the other leaders to get them on tonight to talk about their environment?
If I had known they wanted some of the other ones, I
I
would have
did.
reached out. Where? Oh, Zaid is out of town.
No, I told
Uh,
John, so I'm not sure if he, that was what my text was when I told him. I said, bring
right.
Larry and reach out to some of the other leaders, right, who are going to be part of the
I,
march.
I definitely could. I definitely could have had some of them on. I mean, um, Charlie Hall from Local 108, the Service Workers Union. Uh, he's one of the leaders, and he's from Newark. And Deborah Smith Gregory, she's the president of NAACP. They playing a leading role
Okay.
in this effort, and have helped to bring on board a lot of these organizations that have endorsed.
Yeah, that's right. We just
I didn't
blacked
hear
out.
you. Yeah, you
Yeah,
were froze for a minute.
yeah, we just blacked out. I'm not sure what that is. But yeah, man, I was telling John that would have been great, to have them come on, talk about the significance of the march, why it's important, and
Well,
in particular.
we could still kick it. I do the best I can. Uh, Meanwhile, somebody that's listening might want to text Deborah Gregory and Charlie Hall, see if they want to jump on there with us. But as you said, Ed, earlier, People's Organization for Progress, we have an annual Dr. King March. This year we will observe our 43rd anniversary. And from the beginning of POP, we always celebrated the birthday of Dr. King, which is his actual birthday is January 15th. The holiday was set by Congress on the third Monday of the month of January. So on Monday, we'll be celebrating the holiday, but this past Wednesday, the 15th, was actually his birthday. So we've always had a program to commemorate his birthday and to observe his birthday. And we've also had programs to commemorate his assassination, which is April 4th. And then about 37 years ago, which would have been about, I guess that would have been around 1986 or 87, we started having marches on his birthday. And we've continued to have a march every year. And this year we decided to do it different from the way we normally do it. We decided to reach out and build a coalition. Now, we've done this before, truthfully. I mean, we have pulled together coalitions either for the birthday or the commemoration. What's different about this time is the response that we got. We have pulled together coalitions with as many as 100 organizations in the effort, to either celebrate Dr. King's birthday or celebrate Malcolm's birthday. We've done that before. But as of tonight, we have 305 organizations that have endorsed the march. And that is different.
Wow,
That's different,
wow,
And what's interesting is the relative ease. I mean, it wasn't easy, but relative to past efforts, there seemed to be more of a reception, and even on the part of some, an eagerness to be on board, to be part of the effort. So we started out, and I mean, this is just like we started out on I think it was the 23rd of November was our first meeting, and we had 23 organizations.
mm-hmm.
And in a week's time, we had 100 organizations. Now, in the past, it would take us a month to get to 100 organizations. And then a week after that, we had 200 organizations, you know, and then a week after then after 200, it started getting a little tougher. So things slowed down. It took us a week to get about to 250, and then it took us another week to get to 300. But overall, we got to 300 in about the same time it used to take us to get 100 people to come on board. So
Now,
I think,
and are all of these organizations local?
yes, I would say the vast majority are local, and, determining local as in the New Jersey, in New Jersey, in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan region. And in fact, I can't really think of any national organizations that are on board. There are a lot of local organizations from Newark, from Essex County, from Union County, from Hudson County, from Bergen County. There are some organizations have joined us from New York. They heard about it in New York. We even got some folks coming over, like December 12th movement. They're coming over from New York, and some other organizations are coming over from New York. But it's like 95% Jersey, and then I would say maybe 50% are organizations that are kind of in the Newark, Essex County area. And then the other half, the other 50% or 40% would be throughout the state of New Jersey. So there will be people coming from Atlantic City, from Camden, from Trenton, from Hackensack, from Inglewood, from Teaneck, from Jersey City, from New Brunswick. Did I say Trenton?
Yeah.
Coming from all around, northeast, southwest. Of course, I think it's going to be northern Jersey dominant, but we do have folks who were on board from the beginning that came out of Camden. Brothers and sisters came out of Camden, Brother Keith Howell, Brother Mangaliso, and other brothers and sisters came out of Camden. Brother Steve Young out of Atlantic City, Brother Walter Hudson from Gloucester County. So it's going to be representative of the state of New Jersey. I guess in some senses you might call it a statewide march, although we didn't push it as that, right? We didn't say the statewide Martin. We just said the Martin Luther King March, and people got on board, and I'm glad people got on board. I mean, it's no small thing. It's an accomplishment to get 300 disparate groups to agree that they're going to work together on this particular project. But now the challenge is in the next 18 hours are those organizations going to mobilize their members to come out tomorrow?
Right.
That's the challenge. That's the bigger challenge. The big challenge was to get everybody on the train. The biggest challenge is to get the train where you want it to go.
Right.
And that's the challenge we have now. So we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding tomorrow.
It always is. What did you have in mind? Like, one of the things we thought about with the National Black Political Convention was a check-in, where you had people who would check in the night before, right? So you kind of, or there was we had something planned, like a pre-registration type thing, right? Where we had all of the organizations who had registered and confirmed, they had their members who would also register. So we kind of knew who, was expected to come. Now, that still didn't mean that they would not show up, but at least if they registered, then you could allocate, that organization B was going to come with at least, say 70 members. And let's just say out of that, maybe, 40% of them might show. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
you knew. So without that, you're right. I mean, you just you hope that other than you hope not only do the leaders show, but hopefully
You're
the
right.
leaders and their members show.
Yeah, we're hoping for the best. uh, but this, see, the well, how can I put this? I'll just say it plain. This does not end on Saturday. So the consolation is that hopefully we can hold this coalition together and move them even more effectively for the next event, so to speak. Because this is not one and done. This is not going to be over tomorrow. Already we have discussed, we haven't really started planning it or anything, but it has been raised that one of the next major steps we're going to take is to try to have some type of convention on April 4th, on the April 4th weekend. April 4th, 2025 is a Friday, is a work day. So, we might start on Friday evening, but have the major event on Saturday. Now, what kind of convention? See, we haven't really gotten into the details, but right now we would say it will be a people's convention with a small p, with a small p. We also kind of advance the idea that between now and April 4th, we would give people the opportunity to have sectional conventions. When you look at this diverse group of 300 organizations, you find some clusters. Like, for instance, there are, of course, a number of Black organizations, organizations that explicitly say Black in their organizational name or whose membership is predominantly Black. So they would be a cluster and they could have their own convention before the 4th. Women's groups could have their convention. Latinos could have their convention. We got a lot of environmental organizations. They could have their convention, and so on and so forth, for as many categories as we can find. If the people want to, they can have their own sectional convention, come up with resolutions, and then bring them to the general convention, which will be on April 4th. Now, there's agreement as late as last was it Thursday? No, it was it was Wednesday when we had the press conference. As late as Wednesday, there's agreement on the general convention on April 4th, but there's some disagreement on the sectional conventions. And we're going to still discuss that because we have a follow-up meeting to the march on Monday, January 27th. See, this is why I'm saying to people that this is not a one and done. This is not a one-time thing. We're going to march on Saturday. Then we're going to have a meeting with representatives, a meeting that's open to representatives of all the organizations on Monday, January 27th. And at that meeting, we're going to hash out whether or not we're going to go, straight to the general convention on April 4th, or if there's going to be majority support for people to have these sectional conventions according to category. I personally like the idea of the sectional conventions because I think it gives people who are kind of working in the same lane a chance to caucus with each other and come up with an agenda for their particular section. Because what we want to do on the 4th or the 4th weekend is pull all those sectional agendas together into one agenda. The other thing that's been suggested in our planning meetings for the March is that if we have this convention, we would sponsor one part of the convention would be a gubernatorial debate, that we would invite all the gubernatorial candidates to address the convention on April 4th. And I think that's a good idea because, we got a gubernatorial election, right? Coming up, got the primary in June and the general election in November. But June is like nothing. I mean, I don't mean nothing in the strict sense, but in terms of amount of time, June is not that far away. And we know there's going to be a crowded field in the gubernatorial election, right? Going to be a crowded field.
Right.
And our votes have greater weight when you have a crowded, tight race like that. I mean, I don't know how tight it's going to be, but I think right now there are 5 semi-declared candidates for governor, including the mayor of Newark, Ross Baraka. So I think that would be good if we could actually have that debate.
You know what the mayor says? He says there's only 2 people running. He says it's me and the other guys.
That sounds good.
Yeah. It's a great slogan, right?
It is a great slogan, but there are other people in the race.
It is, yeah.
There are other people,
and there's a lot of money.
Some of them got a lot of money too, brother.
That's absolutely right. They got a lot of money. Yeah,
a lot of money.
I saw some of the numbers that Chinarelli had. He got like $8 million. And you got Fallope, who got something like 27 million.
Who?
Fallope, Jersey City.
Fulop.
Yeah. So he got something like 27 million, and he's been organizing really all of these different leaders around the country. Around the state. So he's been doing that. But I think your idea for April 4th to do a convention and invite them to come, that would be spectacular.
Let's do it. I want all politics are local to play a leading role in this.
Yeah. Well, there's some, I can't divulge some information to you on the show. I can divulge it to you offline. But when when you talk about the role all politics are local, we already playing a major role behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
I know you are. You always have been.
Yeah, but no doubt, man, we, anything that we can do, obviously consider done because, as John is the, he happened to be the debate czar for the city of Newark, and he ought to be the debate czar for the state.
Right.
But yeah. So that's spectacular.
Yes. And so we have the gubernatorial election coming up in 25, and then we right back in the federal race, probably right after November 25. The Congress is up in 26.
Right.
And I think one U.S. Senate seat is up too in 26. Yep.
But so Larry, let's talk about some of the you were mentioning some of the organizations like the NAACP and so forth. What are some of the other organizations from the city of Newark? Not from the city of Newark, but from the state of New Jersey that people may not be familiar with, right? That are expected to be part of the march tomorrow.
Well, as you can imagine, you have your traditional civil rights organizations, the NAACP. In fact, I have to say that the New Jersey State NAACP was one of the first endorsers. They got on board right away, and I was glad about that because they got branches all over the state.
Right.
Every major city in New Jersey has a branch of the NAACP. You have New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. You have Salvation and Social Justice, Faith in New Jersey. Those are all Black faith-based, I'll put it a different way. Salvation, Social Justice, and Faith in New Jersey. Those are faith-based, but not New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. We've got the New Jersey Black educators, the New Jersey Black social workers, the New Jersey Black psychologists, like all the professions are in there. But we have a lot of labor groups represented. Charlie Hall from Local 108. That's like the hotel workers. Local 108, and he's also a Newark resident. He got on from the beginning, and he's helped to bring in a lot of the labor groups. We got the hospital work, HPAE, the Hospital Workers Union, CWA, Communication Workers Union, AFSCME, government employees, 1199, the hospital worker, the other hospital workers, local 601, utility workers, the workers that work for like PSE&G. The utility workers are part of this coalition. The AFT, American Federation of Teachers, that represents teachers in colleges and higher education. Some of their locals are on. So in fact, the Essex West Hudson Labor Council endorsed this, and the New Jersey State AFL-CIO endorsed this. Altogether, I think there are about 25 different labor organizations or labor formations, because you have some that are not unions, like New Labor. I think they came on board recently. So it's like a combination of and a lot of churches. I think I think at least half of the AME churches in New Jersey have come on board. I mean, just off the top of my head, St. James over there on Martin Luther King Boulevard, St. Matthew's up there in Orange, Mount Teman in Elizabeth, and the New Jersey, what do they call it? Newark, Essex Black Churchmen. They endorsed the Interfaith Alliance, Reverend Roundtree, who was I guess a co-host on this segment of the show. She came on board. The other coalition of I Am, the initials are IAM. I forgot but it's an alliance of churches. Right. They've come on board. So it's a wide variety. I mean, the Masons, and I'm talking about the Prince Hall Masons, Eastern Star, they came on board, and I think one of the reasons that we're getting this response, from a lot of places that we may not have gotten responses before, is that I think a lot of people were alarmed by the re-election of Trump. Mm-hmm. I really believe that that's part of it. Now, some people in the coalition would disagree with that. They would say, no, I came in, Trump ain't got nothing to do with it. But I'm saying that there's a general kind of feeling among many in our community. I won't say everybody, but among many people that are like, how the hell did this happen?
Right.
And if we had a problem before, we got twice that problem now.
Right.
I mean, look, in one term, Trump ended up in one 4-year term, Trump ended up appointing more people to the Supreme Court of the United States than any other president.
Right.
And by doing so, he appointed 3. He created a supermajority on the court that have literally begun to overturn, you know, all the legislation that underpins the social progress, what little social progress, and I emphasize what little social progress has been made, let's say, since the New Deal. I mean, Donald Trump mounted an illegal right-wing coup, and the Supreme Court, instead of convicting him, turned around and gave him immunity. Like,
Right.
and not based on the Constitution. You can't find anything in the Constitution that says the president is immune from prosecution. It's not there.
Right.
They made that up.
Right.
You know, and they'll be the first ones when the liberal judges try to do something, they'll say, oh, judicial activism. But they turn around and make stuff up. They call themselves strict reconstructionists.
Right.
You know what that means because you're a lawyer. They
Right.
call themselves strict, meaning that they literally go by the Constitution word for word and then turn around and create rulings that are not based on anything in the Constitution, because there's nothing in the Constitution that says the president will be immune from prosecution. That's
Right.
based on a ruling from an internal rule within the Justice Department that they would not prosecute a sitting president. That's really where that comes from.
Right.
So, you know, people feel uneasy. I mean, look what's happened with affirmative action. In 1 year since the court overturned affirmative action in higher education, they came out with a report in December. They've already seen a decline in Black enrollment in colleges and universities across the country in 1 year.
Right.
And then we see these, you look in the workplace, you know, the version of affirmative action in the workplace is, I guess right now, is diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Walmart, all these other companies didn't waste any time announcing the end of their DEI programs.
Right.
Now, I'm gonna tell you something. I worked in the corporate sector. A lot of people don't know. You know, I think a lot of people think I've been like a full-time activist somehow, that I made a living being an activist all of my life. No, I worked jobs like other people. And at one time, I was a second-level manager at AT&T Information Systems at their headquarters in Morristown, New Jersey. I don't even know if they're still there. That was so long ago. But I'm gonna tell you, without DEI and affirmative action, you're not gonna see Black people to continue to advance in the private sector or the public sector as they did in the past, say, I don't know what, I mean, if we count from 1968, how many years would that be? 50, 56 years or so, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to slow down because
you're absolutely right, Larry. We're actually seeing that now. You know that.
Right.
We actually have young men who, you know, Bill Cosby sort of, you know, he forecasted this maybe 35 years ago, but we see men now who are graduating with degrees in political science and are actually not getting the jobs because they have names that sound like Muslims. And the people who are getting the jobs over them who don't have credentials that match theirs, but they have Indian sounding names. And so they're getting those jobs. And because they don't have a DEI program, they don't feel obligated, right, to hire the young Black man whose name might be, let's just say for the sake of argument, what Donald Trump was going around saying, Hussein Obama, right?
Right.
Persona non grata. So these young brothers are frustrated, right? They out there degrees from top colleges, but they still living at home with their mothers and can't get a job.
Yep.
Frustrating, right?
Yep. Or
And,
get it, or they have a college degree and they doing Uber. They
that's
doing Uber and Lyft.
right.
You
That's
know?
right.
And there's some people with college degrees who are working at Burger King and McDonald's. You know?
That's right.
And that was, believe it or not, that was even happening like 40 years ago.
Right.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember when people started talking about they had college degrees and they were working at McDonald's.
Well, Larry, that was happening in the 20s and 30s. Remember the porter car men, right? Remember all of them brothers that were on trains, that were conductors and all of
Yes.
that,
Yes.
right? Remember them, all them brothers had college degrees,
That's right.
lawyers, right?
That's
And
right.
because they had to feed their families, they took those kind of jobs because they
That's
couldn't
right.
get jobs anywhere else, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And see, the discriminating against people who might have Arabic sounding names or might have culturally identifiable names, you know, that's the low hanging fruit.
Right.
You know, people look at a employment application, they don't have to see a picture. They say the woman's name is, you know, and I'm not doing this to cast disparaging anybody, but I'm just using this as an example. They say, you know, you got Lakeisha, you know, they're gonna know that's African American.
Yeah.
So that's low hanging fruit because they don't even have to see the person. They can say, I never saw the person.
Right.
We refused her because she didn't have the qualifications. But I'm going to tell you something, whether they have an English sounding name or whether they have Arabic sounding name or Swahili name like I do, or, you know, any other kind of name, in the final analysis, racial discrimination in the workplace is real. It's real. And now it's going to get realer than real.
Yeah.
You know, realer than real. And they're going to try and make you feel like, oh, you're not hired or you're not promoted because you're not qualified, when the truth of the matter is you're not hired and you're not promoted because you're black. Because you're black.
That's absolutely right. And they're gonna get away with it, Larry, because all you gotta do is look at Fox News on any day, and what they talk about is DEA hires, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the call of the day. How'd you get your job? Oh, you were a
Right.
DEA hire.
Right. So
And
any black person that has a good job is going to be, see, that's the way you demonize a people.
right.
That's the way you generate hatred against the people. You know, I mean, who's less qualified to run the Pentagon, the Department of the Military, than Peter Hegseth? You know, that guy's work record is abominable, you know, but he's Trump's pick to run an agency that has 3 million employees. This is a guy that is an avowed white nationalist. Like, his white nationalism is on full display in books that he has written. And his terrible work record has been brought to light by people that worked with him. Said a guy would get so drunk that they had to carry him out of meetings.
I heard that. Yeah.
You know, like on many occasions, not one occasion like this happened 10 years. No, this is like a regular thing. And he's a guy, if you've seen any of his pictures, you know, he has white nationalist symbols as tattoos on his body, like the Crusader cross and other, you know, white nationalist symbols. He's a guy that said before he was even considered for this job that they needed to purge the ranks of the military. You know why he was saying purge the ranks of the military? Because there were too many black commanding officers. You know, many people don't know affirmative action started in the military. And it started in the military before the civil rights movement, before Dr. King. It started, I think, under it may have been Truman when because the first March on Washington, A. Philip Randolph was going to call it in 1943 because of discrimination against black people in the military related industries that were getting federal contracts. See, when you get a federal contract, you're subject to the laws of the federal government. So if you're getting $1 from the federal government, your business is federalized and you're subject to the laws of the federal government, not just the laws of Mississippi and Alabama, you know? So A. Philip Randolph went to Roosevelt, you know, and said, if you don't straighten this out, I'm calling a march on Washington. And he could do it because he had the national labor organizations. He was the one that organized the Pullman car porters, A. Philip Randolph.
Right.
And what happened was Roosevelt died, but Truman became president, and he issued the executive order for the desegregation of the military and military related industries. That is the armaments industries. My mother, Grace Hamm, my mother that raised me, because I have two mothers. I have a mother that raised me, and when I was 44, I discovered I was adopted, you know. And my mother, who raised me, she and her sister, my aunt, Gladys, my mother Grace and her sister Gladys, they worked at Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey in the 50s. And they were able to work there because of the executive order that was issued by the president to desegregate those industries. Now, desegregation, you know, was good in one sense that people could work there, but there still was discrimination. You know, it's still you the last hired and you the first fired.
Yep.
You know, or you hired and then you end up training somebody to do your job.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But my mother did work at the Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey. So affirmative action really started there, you know, and then I think it was President Kennedy who gave a speech this was before the passage of the Civil Rights Act. It may have been in 1963 before he was assassinated, saying that affirmative action needed to be taken on the issue of racial discrimination in the United States. And then gradually, you know, the Civil Rights Act of 64 was passed. And that's really the basis of affirmative action programs, you know, to stop discrimination in employment. So, you know, they're focusing on this DEI, and that's going to have a major impact on Black people because it means that we're going to continue to be discriminated against. And many folks who might have been able to move up a little bit, that's out because no more DEI, no more affirmative action. I don't care how many degrees you got.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
And you're absolutely right, Larry. And that's why I think that, you know, when we talk about the march, right, and you talk about the organizing and what comes behind it, that becomes even more important, right? Because that goes to your question. We have to ask, how did this happen with Donald Trump, right? Like you said. But even more important, Larry, you know, I don't know if you've been hearing some in the Latino community who now are saying they're extremely afraid because they don't know if their family members are going to be deported. But these are some of the same people who voted for him, and now they're saying that they didn't understand what they were voting for. How could that be, Larry? How could that absolutely be?
Well, How could it be that black people would vote for Donald Trump? How could that be?
Right.
Because there were black people that
I
voted for
know.
Donald Trump in 16,
Yeah.
and there were more black people that voted for Donald Trump in 2020.
Right.
And 2020 when he ran against Biden. Well, actually, I think there were fewer. Some voted in 16, fewer voted in 20, but more voted in 24. But black people still had the largest percentage voting for Democrat, voting for Harris, black men and women, by the way, than any other ethnic group. This is one of the amazing things. It's like when I was a kid at South 17th Street School, right, in the 8th grade, and they were teaching us about World War II. And they were teaching us about all the atrocities. I remember I had a teacher at Arts High School, and this was in my senior year in 1970-71, my senior year. I had a class called Humanities. It was an advanced English class, right? And I had a teacher, her name was Mrs. Rich. She was a very nice lady. In fact, she invited us, before we graduated, she invited her class to her home in Livingston for, a visit, and a meal and so on and so forth. She happened to be Jewish, right? And she told us in the humanities class when we were studying World War II about the atrocities that happened to the Jewish people and about some of the ghastly things that they did, like take the people's skin and make lampshades out of their skin. And I was like, how could that be? How could people do something so terrible? Because that's ghoulish.
Right.
Ghoulish, right?
Right.
And then I was like, well, how did they let Hitler get control of Germany? I always wondered that in school. If this person was so terrible, how could he get elected? And one of the shortcomings of education, particularly around World War II, is that they don't really teach what was going on in Germany. You kind of get this thing like Hitler comes to power and then there's World War II, just like that. They don't show you how Hitler came to power. Like a lot of people think Hitler seized power militarily. He didn't. He was elected. There was an election.
Yeah.
And they have a parliamentary system. And in their system, in order to control whichever party is winning, in order to control the government, you either got to win 50% plus outright, or if you don't win 50% plus outright, you got to make a coalition with another group that might have 5% to 10% and put together with your 45%, that makes 55%, and you have a coalition government, right? So the question is like, how did Hitler come to power? He came to power because a lot of German people, quote unquote, good Germans, they didn't do anything. They didn't try to stop Hitler when they had the chance.
Right.
Like they had the chance to stop him from being elected. Or they had the chance to pressure their political party, the major political party at that time, not to go into coalition with Hitler. Because once they went in coalition with Hitler, the deal was, okay, give us your 10% so we can have 55% and have a majority. But the trade-off was they had to make Hitler chancellor. And once he got to be chancellor, that was it. He's sitting in the catbird seat. He had the power.
Right.
And there's an article that just came out in Atlantic Monthly magazine. It's the title of it is something like how the Nazis took power in Germany in 53 days.
Wow. Wow.
How they did it constitutionally.
Wow.
They like get guns and say, all right, because you know Hitler did try to have his own little coup too, and he failed. And they put him in jail for a year. That's when he wrote Mein Kampf. You know, and in the same way that they taught us about how the Jewish people were treated, they never taught us in school about how Africans were treated. Do you know that there was a market for African skin during the slave trade? I'm talking about skin, Brother Riley.
Yeah.
That they skinned Black people and made shoes, made handbags, made clothing from the skin of Black people during the slave trade. Even here in the United States. You know, we learned about the atrocities of the Holocaust, but we never learned about the atrocities. And now here we are at a strange place in history. Here we are in the 21st century, not the 19th century, not the beginning of the 20th century, when the teaching of Black history is actually being outlawed. Outlawed in Florida, outlawed in Arkansas, outlawed in other states. Books are being banned, just like in Germany. You can go to history books now and see the Nazi Party members taking books out of school, piling them all up in the city square and setting them on fire. So that's what we have now. I actually saw a video of all the books that had been banned from a school in a dump truck and being dumped to be set on fire. The same thing is going on here. But people don't, and not far from here, in Westfield, New Jersey, they tried to ban, was it Toni Morrison's book, The Bluest Eye?
Yes.
They tried to ban Toni Morrison's book from the high school in Westfield. That was last year.
Yeah.
You know, this stuff is not happening just down south. It's happening right here. You know, there's still school districts. We are here in the Martin Luther King weekend. There are school districts in New Jersey that still don't observe the birthday of Martin Luther King.
Yep. Yep.
So, you know, we're at this strange place now, because you asked the question, how could Hispanics, and it's true, you can't get around it. 30 to 35% of Latinos voted for Donald Trump. And I would like to talk to some of our progressive brothers and sisters, but keep in mind too, if 30%, 35% of them voted for Donald Trump, that means that 65% didn't. And you always have to keep proportionality in mind, right? Because percentages fool you. Like 35%, that's a lot of people. But 65% is even more people. You know, you got to keep things proportional, you know. But I think, you know, I think the whole country has shifted right. You know, the whole country has shifted to the right. And now people are basically living in terror.
Yeah.
Are you seeing what's happening with some of the news? Like the other day, when the Washington Post was going to endorse Kamala Harris.
Oh yeah.
And Jeff Bezos sent down the word, we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's because he owned the paper. So
that's right.
You know, yeah,
that's
so
right.
We can do that. Hey Larry, hey, you're gonna stick with me, man, because we're gonna be talking about the march all night, right?
Okay.
Different people. So let's welcome Marquis, because he, you know, he has something that's coming up, and let's find out, you know, is he gonna be coming through to
the youngest school board member ever elected?
Peace, Marquis. You muted, my brother. Welcome to the show.
How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
Good. You know,
I'm out here multitasking right now.
Marquis
He's
said,
multitasking.
Marquis is the behind the scenes co-producer of All Politics Local.
All
The kind
right.
you tell nobody about. He just send the guest list. What's up, Mark? What's good,
What's
brother?
going on? How y'all doing?
Good,
How
Good.
y'all
good,
brothers doing?
good,
I,
Good.
good.
I feel it's honored to be, amongst you brothers who are always out here doing the work. My mentor, my big brother Larry Hamm. We Jaguars, so we breathe differently.
That's right.
That green and gray is still true, man.
That's right.
So yeah,
Our time, our time.
that's right. I'm just happy to be a part of the endorsement of this much needed rally march. Um, Everyone that knows me know that I always this is one of my favorite marches, Dr. King, because everything that I do is based on the principle of Dr. King. I was a speech and debate champion, speech original oratory decoration, declamation champ, and I was a champion because of my impersonation of Dr. King, um,
Mm,
doing all his speeches, um, from the Call of Conscious to I Have a Dream. Um, all his messages from the Birmingham jail. Uh, the messages through his speeches talk to me, and that's how I found myself. I found
Mm.
myself by studying Dr. King and Malcolm X, knowing that these two brothers, they may have different views on things, but they all both had the same purpose, and that was to show the people that we have power, not to look for government for power because we are the power that we need. And I think that now that we have got so used to the government taking care of us, we got so used to asking the government to do what we supposed to do as a people, that we depend on them. And so when they can't do for us, we call them all types of names, and we, try to disconnect ourselves from them. But the reality is that Dr. King gave us a message a long time ago that we have not been following, that we have not been obedient to, because he gave us a message of self-conscious, and showed us that we have to be the forefront of the movement, whether we like it or not. I fight with people every day because they say, "Oh, y'all marching, all y'all want to do is march," and I said, "Well, marching is the reason why you're not on the back of the bus anymore. Marching is the reason why you can now drive the bus. Marching is the reason why now you could be the supervisor of the bus. It's the reason why now you can own the bus. And because of marching, marching is the reason why you can stand in front of the classroom and be in front of kids that don't look like you, right? Marching is the reason why now we have the power to be in elected office because we was not allowed to be in elected office, right? Marching is the reason why Larry Hamm was the youngest appointed board member ever in the history of the city of Newark, right? And he's the reason why now students around the city can now look up to and appreciate him, because if it was not for Larry Hamm, we do not have a student, a person sitting on our school board, right? And he is the reason why now I can bear the title of the youngest ever elected school board member to ever be
yep.
elected to the school district, right? So
Youngest ever.
we battle with self-hate, and the reason why we are in the predicament that we're in because we struggle with self-hate, right? We the only people that can't come together, sit at a table, and agree to disagree. So I'm excited about this march because it re-energizes me every year and make me understand more what my purpose is here on earth, right? My purpose is not for self-gain or self-want, but my purpose is to help somebody along the way, because I realize that material things, titles, none of this is going to go with me when I go to that pearly gate. What he's going to ask me is, Marquis, who have you helped along the way? And I want my legacy to be that everyone that I encountered, where I came across, that I was willing to help them, even when we had different views, even when we weren't on the same page. I was still willing to help them. So I'm grateful for this march. And this march is one of the reasons why every year I have something called the Evening of Excellence, right? And I was doing it as a school board member, and I continue to do it, um, even when I was in my other capacity at the housing authority to help us with services. But now it is my civic association, the Marquis Lewis Civic Association, that helps empower young people across the city and give us the opportunity to help families in need, but also help our young athletes when they are in need help, right? Because we're not in suburban America, right? We're not suburban. Our kids are not afforded the opportunity to get the best equipment, to be equipped to be scholar athletes, right? So we have to fundraise, we have to find ways to make sure that they get the resources that they need. And that's why I've been able to adopt schools around the city. I even I'm a part of a football organization, and we're able to do services for young people because of this dinner that we have every year, just to shine the light on some people that have been doing the work that don't get the credit that they deserve. And on tomorrow night, we're shining the light on some individuals who have been doing the work but have not been getting the necessary credit, right? Tomorrow is an exciting day for us because we start off our day with naming Hawthorne and Osborne Terrace Minnie Allen Way. And anyone who's
Mm,
from know who Minnie Allen is, right? A lot of us wouldn't have summer jobs if it wasn't for Minnie Allen, who went out her way to make sure that every resident family that needed their child employed during the summer and gave them something to do to keep them off the streets. And we're going to honor her tomorrow by starting at 10 o'clock, naming the street out. Thank you to Council President Larry Crump, our Mayor, Mayor Ras Baraka, our council people for allowing us this opportunity to honor such a giant in this community and allow her to smell her flowers while she's still here, right? And then on that night, on after that, 11 o'clock, I'll be at the rally with Larry, with Larry and everyone else. 12 at 12:50, I got a football game with my young boys. So, and then at 5:30, I will be at the Evening of Excellence Award dinner honoring people like Miss Minnie Allen, Mother Minnie Allen. That's what they call her, Mother Minnie Allen, who have been the mother for many people in this community. Honoring people like Bashir Akiele, who is our educator, who has been fighting for African studies in our schools. And even though when people don't hear him, I want him to know that we hear him and that we're behind him 1,000%. And other people like Felina Berryman, who have been developing young people in our community for a long time, who's still doing it. You know, these are people who are doing the work and not asking for recognition, right? And we're also empowering young people like Pastor Jaleel Barrow, who is a young pastor who just became a pastor who's taking the mantle of his spiritual leader, Pastor Ali Bryan, who he is now the new pastor of his church, right? We're empowering people and showing them that we love them all at the same time. That's tomorrow night, 5:30 at Congregational Baptist Church in the city of North 399, Bergen Street. If you want to attend, if you are looking for more information, you can find it on my Facebook. You can call me at 201-306-7517. The 201-306-7517. We out here doing the work, and I'm unapologetically a servant for my community.
Marquise, that is absolutely admirable on your part because you've been doing this since you were a young man, brother. You
That's
know,
right.
so you've been on this post a long time, brother, and
Larry had me out here a long time. I told, I told, I told people I
when
look
when
old
I
because
when I
Larry
met
had me out here a
Marquis,
long time.
when I met Marquis, he was doing anti-violence rallies down
Right.
there. Was that Fairmount Avenue?
Yes, sir.
See, I
21
remember.
years.
That's
21
right.
years, man. And
I
I'm
did
only
not
37.
activate him. He was already activated when I
Yeah,
met
yeah,
him. He was
yeah.
already activated.
But Larry was one of the first people in the community who opened his arms for me. You know, I don't know if it was the Arts High thing, but Larry was one of the first people who really threw his arm around me and said to the people, "We got to help this young brother." Him, the street doctor, of course.
Street
You know,
doctor.
was two of the first men who grabbed me. Brother Bashir actually was one who was my traveling partner. Like he was my security. He traveled with me from radio station to radio station just to talk about the anti-violence that we was trying to do. Bill Cosby was another one who opened his arms and supported us. So I've been doing this for 21 years, and you know it's a long time.
21
I'm
years.
glad. I'm glad I started young. I'm only 37. I got a lot of more work to do,
Mm.
but to me, it's about the kids. Everything I do, I don't do it for recognition because nobody will never recognize me enough, right? So when you don't look for recognition, you're not disappointed. So the reason why I don't look for recognition because I don't want to be disappointed. My reward is going to be when I leave this earth.
Marquis is very modest, right? When I met Marquis, he was a high school student, you know, and you think about it, man, that ever since I met him, man, he's been on the job ever since, which is incredible because I heard TD Jake say this week, man, on a call I was on, and he said everybody can do something for a short while. He said, but there's not a lot of us that can do something for a long while, right?
Absolutely.
And that is absolutely incredible. But because that's why most of us don't really see our goals to the end, right?
Hmm.
Because we want them to be short term, right? But anything that's worth it is actually long term, right? Because
Mhm.
you've got to be willing to put the time in it, and anything that time I've come to learn, Marquise, and you're going to appreciate this as a man of God, is actually connected to faith, right?
That's right.
Because you can't see it because it's a long distance run, right? It's not a short distance run. It's a long distance run because faith is that kind of thing you got to have without seeing the end. You've got to
That's right.
believe that end when you started. You got to believe that you're going to get there. I'm
That's
talking to
right.
somebody. I'm actually talking to Asia right now. Asia had to see the beginning of law school. She had to see her lawyers at the end of it, right?
Hmm.
You have to see that at the end because everybody can say, "Oh, I want to pass the LSAT. Yeah, I want to go to law school." But you know what? You got to see that from the beginning, and you got to see the end of it. But that requires
Hmm.
faith, right? It's a long distance
Hmm.
run. So you're a long distance runner, my brother.
Amen.
You know,
That's
you
right.
take
We
that long.
walk by faith, not by
This-
sight.
That's right. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
That's right. That's right. So you see, I just want to introduce some of the other two co-hosts that are with the show. Of course, that just popped in. You got, of course, our brother Hakim Green and Asia Norton. Welcome to the show. We talking to Marquis, of course, about his gala event that's coming up on Saturday, and of course, y'all know Larry's huge march with over 300 organizations, right, that are going to be represented in our city tomorrow. So, we're just having a conversation with these brothers, but welcome y'all to the show tonight.
Good to be here. Thank you so much. And Mr.
Pete,
Hammer, pleasure seeing you as always.
Good to see you too, sister.
With all the positive vibes for tomorrow's march. And Marquise, I know your gala is going to be nothing but a success.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Hip
Pete,
Hop himself.
salute, salute, salute. We all hip hop here. Politics with a hip hop touch to it.
There you go.
That's right. That's right.
Yes,
So,
nothing but success tomorrow for Brother Ham in the march. Honoring, commemorating Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
very important time tomorrow, considering the next 4 years. So I think that's
Oh,
the
brother.
way to start these next 4 years is with focus on Dr. King and what he stood for. And of course, Marquis, I wish you nothing but the best on your gala tomorrow night, for sure.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. So I don't know about y'all, but I won't be looking at the inauguration. I'll be out chilling with my kids. We gonna do a movie night. I ain't gonna look at it. I don't know about you. I ain't watching that inauguration.
Well, what
Well,
I do know is I think it's funny how the inauguration just so happens to land on MLK Day, right? And so I know plenty of people that will be way too busy doing state of service. Um, the real priority where we really should be at work on the ground, helping, giving back, receiving things as well. So I think that's really interesting how that all that happened. When I realized that, I was like, oh, I wonder if that was by design. So you never know.
Mm.
I think that's a good out for Michelle, right? Because Michelle says she won't be attending, right? Because she's not going to allow herself to be disrespected, right? I mean, and you got to think about that, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we understand diplomacy, right? We understand being diplomatic, but Donald Trump ain't diplomatic, y'all. That guy ain't diplomatic. He could care less about that. And and think about it, when Biden won the election, as I recall, he never showed up, right? So
Well,
Nope.
actually, when Biden won the election, that's when January 6th happened, right?
he let it go, right? As I understand, that's what happened. So
Yeah.
for all of this negative heat that they're trying to send to Michelle because Michelle said that she's not going to attend, I heard, excuse me, I heard Mrs. Biden say she invited Trump's wife to a tea party, which is customary. And she said that she was told that of course Mrs. Trump said that she's not available to attend. I'm like, wow, and that's customary for all first ladies to
Uh-huh.
attend, right?
Brother, they going against custom.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
Donald
yeah,
Trump
yeah.
don't know no custom. He
that's
know
right,
one
Nah,
custom, power.
right.
that's
He
right.
sees in power.
Listen,
You know,
I'm with Michelle on this. You can't disrespect me and then think I'm coming to your party. You
Right.
know, this man, to me, I'm not watching it for a few reasons, right? But one reason is I'm a man, right? And the way that he disrespected women, during this race, like our vice president, I called her all types of names. And, I just can't stand by and watch a man get sworn office who disrespect our women, right? And I'm a man, so first, right? So I'm not going to stand by and watch somebody get sworn in um who like antagonized and disrespected the women in this country. That's just my stand on it.
Well, it
It
seems like a lot of people won't be able to show up
I'm sorry,
because he officially
Marquis,
made it
can you mute your
indoors.
side when you're not? Can you mute your side when you're not talking? There's a lot of background noise. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, thank you for that. But it appears that a lot of people won't really be able to attend the inauguration because he made it indoors and is no longer outside. So everyone who planned to attend being on the outside, they won't they will have nothing to watch. I'm not too sure how that's going to work out. But last time, from what I heard, it was colder on the day when Obama was first for his first inauguration than it
was
will
cool.
be for second inauguration. So really interesting.
but I heard I heard that they're supposed to be moving it indoors, you know. So I don't know if that's true,
It's
but
going to happen in the Capitol Rotunda. His
okay.
swearing in is going to be in the Rotunda because of it's supposed to be a storm that day in DC, I think.
It should be a storm.
Isn't God a beautiful thing? Isn't God beautiful?
Yeah,
How that worked
yeah.
out. And I know, Asia, you just said that it was actually colder on Obama's second inaugural day, and I think the turnout was still pretty huge. Um, so for this to be happening, and they're moving it inside, I think that's a good thing. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
No matter what, none of us gonna be there. That's what we do now.
Yeah.
We're not going to be there. We're not going to be watching. God bless them, right? I think that, you know, I'm going to be paying attention to what's going on, what we need to do, right? So, Marquis, just before we let you go, my brother, why don't you go on and say one more time what's going to be happening tomorrow with the gala, where and how people can get tickets, man?
Yes, tomorrow is at 5:30 at Congregational Baptist Church in North, 399 Bergen Street. If you want tickets, you can give me a call at 201-306-7517. Again, 201-306-7517. Come out with us and you know, and shine the light on those who have been doing the work. That's all we're about, doing the work.
All right. Marquis, thank you, my brother. We definitely appreciate you coming through, man. As always, you know, my behind the scenes co-producing brother. We appreciate that. Of all politics are local. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right. So we'll see you at the march, man. All right. So we're getting ready to bring on another sister who's just joined us. So you want to go on and introduce her to everybody?
Yes, I see her looking lovely as always. So again, my name is Asia Norton, and I am back. I was originally on, not originally, but before I went to law school, I was the co-host for All Politics Are Local. And because I did this crazy thing, taking the LSAT and then actually getting admitted to law school, I was like, let me take a break really quick. Let me get this JD, become an Esquire, and all politics are local. Welcome me back with open arms, and so I'm so happy to be back here. And so my first guest, we have Jmarilyn Davis. She's incredible. For all those who may not know her background, she's gonna get to that. But one thing, the reason why I want to bring her on because she is running to be secretary for the DNC. So we were just talking about Trump's inauguration, which just so happens to be landing on MLK Day. This woman is actually doing what we're talking about here. All politics are local, boots on the ground, getting out to the people, really trying to put, give the Democratic Party a new face, new leadership, trying to make it what we love it to be. And so Jmarilyn Davis, please. Hey y'all, hey girl, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here with us on a Friday. I know you have a crazy schedule. I follow you on all the social medias, and you are out here getting the word out, spreading the information, educating folks. And so I already said that you're running to be the secretary for the DNC. Can you just give us introduce yourself, give us some more background on who you are and what exactly is running for secretary of the DNC? What does that actually mean?
Okay, sure. So I'll say I'm Jmarilyn Davis. I am from rural South Carolina. I reside here in New Jersey. I am running for DNC secretary because yesterday's DNC cannot be today's DNC. The old playbook of 30 years ago can no longer take us into the future. We're facing a second Trump administration, and that requires new leadership that can go from the suites to the streets, leadership that has been there and done that. My political career started off in South Carolina, and I started off working on Capitol Hill, but I have worked in every part of the Democratic ecosystem. I have worked for organized labor, on Capitol Hill, in state government, in corporate America, and I'm a business person. I most recently worked on the campaign in Michigan the last 10 days of the election and was disappointed by the outcome of the election, to say the least. And I decided to follow the words of First Lady Michelle Obama, who said, do something. And so I decided to do something and run. And I said, the DNC cannot continue on the way it is. It needs to be transformed. It needs new, change-minded leadership, and leadership who's not afraid to speak truth to power on behalf of the people. And so that is why I'm running for secretary. The election is February 1st. The people who vote in that election will be the DNC members, which is no different than if you were in the AK, you're in the like the AKAs or alphas or any other sorority, where the members of that organization are the ones who do the voting. There are 448 members of the DNC, comprised of Democratic Party chairs, vice chairs, and other elected members, depending on the population of your state. So those 448 people will gather on February 1st to elect a new leadership team, a chair, a treasurer, a secretary, a finance chair, and 4 vice chairs. All the chatter in the media is around the chair, but very little chatter is about the other positions. And for those of us who are in organizations, we all know that the power seats are chair, secretary, treasurer, and finance. And so I'm running for one of those positions because we need to have multiple seats at the table. And most of the candidates who are running for, I'm going to break down the vice chair positions. There are 4, but there's one that is called the vice chair for community engagement and voter participation. That particular position, there are 4 candidates running, all of whom are African American. And then the 3 at-large vice chair positions that are more general. There's 14 candidates representing every particular constituency group that exists in the Democratic Party, except for probably AAP as probably the only missing constituency group. The elections have to be gender balanced. So if there are 4 white males in the other positions, there have to be 4 people of color in the vice chair roles. As I mentioned to you, well, I didn't mention, but there is one woman currently on this side, one white woman currently on this side, and then these 4 here is where most of the people of color are, and some white people are running for those positions. So you have a gender balance, and so that will play out. I think gender balance and racially balanced, and that will play out on February 1st. And so I invite your audience to come down to DC, get on the plane, train, jump in your car, drive the 3 hours to DC to witness election for those who are Democrats. The process is open. It's a public meeting, or tradition has been public. It's supposed to be public, but sometimes the rules do change. But I will say that people should certainly come down and see the process. It's going to be a long day, probably going to start around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, just to, because there will be several iterations of the elections. It is if you don't get 51% of the vote, then there's like a second round, a third round, and the fourth round, depending on how many candidates are running. But again, I think it's important for those of us who are in driving distance, but certainly those who can come no matter where you're from, to come down to DC, come down to, it's going to be at the Gaylord, at the Gaylord National Resorts, to see the process in play, see who's in the room, to be in the room so they can see you as well, and so that you are, so that people are on the record to be being present and are having a voice in the process. So that's the process. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Out of curiosity, I'm actually, so I hear of the DNC, you hear DNC, the DNC, but who really knows what that actually means and what that does that do? Like, how does that affect us in our everyday? How does that affect politics? The role in which the DNC plays for everyday folks like us. And so could you just like elaborate that just to give us context of the importance of the seat that you're seeking?
So if you are a member of the Democratic Party, then you are affiliated with the Democratic National Committee. It does not mean you are a member. You're just affiliated with the Democratic National Committee, and that is the party of which you belong to. However, there is a governing body, which is what the members represent. And if you're part of if you're in a state or a territory, there's a Democratic Party in each state and territory, and you can be active in that. The process usually starts with being a county committee person, and you go up from there, right? And you're elected to be a DNC member based from your state party body, and that puts you at the national table. The DNC is just the acronym. Sometimes you'll hear the DNC, the convention, the Democratic Convention, which is the convention. Those who work at the convention do the logistics for the meeting that the DNC convenes every 4 years to receive their nominee. And again, it's no different if you're in a fraternity or sorority or any other organization that has, like if you're in the NAACP, the NAACP has a national board, which is the same as the DNC members. So like the local chapters, and then you have a national organization that has a governing body. Same concept. The only difference is because of the size of the DNC, the Democrats convention, you have 30,000 people or so. Because of the size of the convention, you have to have another body to do the logistics, which is what the convention does. But they just do the logistics for the DNC's meeting. Okay.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for that. And just because you shout out fraternities and sororities, I definitely have to give a recognition to my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
I did that already. I did that. I did. Hakim, did I do that already? That was the first one I gave out.
Who just celebrated, I had to do my whole spiel, who just celebrated our Founders Day on January 15th, 117 years of sisterhood and service to mankind. And there are other sororities who celebrated their Founders Day this past week, but we don't have to mention them. So we'll just continue on with our interview of Marilyn. So going back to more of your background, what got you involved in all this, or what was your starting point? Because the DNC, running for the DNC, and again, people know you. You have a history. You have this resume, and you're extremely lovable. You're likable, and that's for a reason. The way that you're able to connect with people, and so how did you get to this point? I think it's really interesting when people meet individuals, they just think like they've always been you. Like the person that we see in front of us right now on camera with the fly red glasses. They should be pink or green, but it's okay. I'm not gonna hold it against you. The fly red glasses. How did you get to this point? What was your starting point? What motivated you to continue on? Love to hear that background.
So I started in the business by a mere happenstance in that my sister was going for an interview or a meeting of sorts with an elected official with whom who was going to help her find a job. And so she took me with her, and I was in college at the time. And so he was like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm in college. What are you talking about? And so he ended up giving me an internship, and that's how I stumbled into the business. And from there, just the curiosity of learning the business and also exploring the entire ecosystem is what propelled me to this point. I worked for the Democratic National Committee. I've also worked for the Democratic National Committee Convention, the DNCC, the logistics side of the house too. And so having worked for both organizations, understanding the culture of the organization, as well as having been part of the entire ecosystem, again, working for organized labor, working on Capitol Hill, working in state government, working for Governor Corzine as his Deputy Commissioner of Labor and as his Deputy Chief of Staff. So all those experiences and working on campaigns, I worked on 6 presidential campaigns across the country. So all those experiences kind of prepared me for this moment. But the frustration of Vice President Harris losing the election, the frustration of President Biden running for re-election that presented Kamala Harris as the nominee, and then the outcome of seeing a sister lose the election, but her race, her candidacy represented to Black women, to me in particular, was that we're way too often we are the deputy, we are the number 2, we are the deputy of whatever. Here, so her race, for most Black women and for myself specifically, represented like the opportunity that we rarely get to sit in the big seat. And therefore, many of us, we dove in head first because we wanted one to make sure we had her back. 2, we saw ourselves in her, like potentially one day we can get the top seat for those of us who aspire to that. But then when she didn't, it was crushing, not just for her, but for our own aspirations, that once again, we didn't get the top spot. And because of that, I walked away and said, we got to do something differently. We cannot do this again. We cannot use an old playbook for a different time. The strategies that worked in the past are not working anymore because 15 million people decide not to vote this election cycle, some here in New Jersey. So we need a leadership that understands that all politics is local. We need a leadership that understands how to go from the suites to the streets, to engage the electorate, to have the conversations that we can have, because we're so accustomed, some of us anyway, of being able to talk to our cousins and them, but at the same time, go into those rooms where we got to talk to folk in a way that they can receive it, to motivate people to go out and vote and understand that what's really at stake. And that whether we are at the table or on the menu, we are going to be impacted by the decisions that are happening in the Beltway, or the decisions that happen in Trenton, or the decisions that happen at City Hall. And so it's in our best interest to be involved. And if we cannot be involved, we need someone who's at the table, who understands our story, our challenges, what's before us, and can represent us. Earlier today, I did a Zoom with the Young Democrats, the New Jersey chapter of the Young Democrats of America. And I shared with them my story, graduating college with student loans and credit card debt and a car loan, and getting a job and having to have an apartment. Like, that's their story. That's not an old story. It's still a new story. It's still a story that's happening to first and second generation kids of color. And so we need someone who's going to be at that table, who can speak, who can tell that story and be an advocate for them in the Beltway, at the DNC, in Washington, because that is still a struggle for many of us. And so that's why I'm doing this, to make sure to give a voice to the voiceless, to represent those who need representation, and to tell the story in a way that most mainstream people cannot relate, because that's not their experience. But for those of us who descended on this country, or who were brought to this country in 1619, it's a familiar story. And I'm doing it for the people.
Marilyn, can I interrupt you? I'm sorry, Asia, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Hey, Asia, welcome back. Miss you. Hey, beautiful Marilyn.
Oh my God, it's been a long time.
Yes, ma'am. Marilyn, you just said the Young Dems. Who can you give us a breakdown in New Jersey? Because if I'm correct, as we celebrate Dr. King's birthday, he was actually, when he started, he might have been in the Young Dems qualifications, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And with his age and everything. So who, and the Young Dems in New Jersey, I know at one point Chris was in leadership, but who's our leadership in New Jersey for the Young Dems?
Her name is Fatima Hayward.
Okay.
She is a young sister who's actually preparing to run for president of the national YDA.
Okay.
This is a sister from South Jersey. She's a bad young sister. She's here working full-time and in law school at Howard University, and leading YDA, the New Jersey chapter of the YDA. She's a bad sister, and I see her going far. In the conversation I had with her chapter members, one, I want you to dream as big as you could possibly dream. And two, call on us, because we want to help you get there.
Right.
There's many of us who've been there, done that, who can help open doors for them. And so, like yourself, and I said with somebody earlier to consider going to work in the labor union. But there are a lot of us around who can help, push them forward, because eyes are getting tired.
Right. And it's here, and and the young people have really taken us very far in the recent elections, and yet we don't. They're doing the work, but we don't know the names. How we can push some of our young people right here in Essex County, and our how can we help them get involved, and then for them to understand that they're no different than Dr. King. That is their reality. Dr. King was a young Dem who was called upon. The elders helped. They did some serious teachings back then and everything. So this is something that we can continue to replicate, do and do. But teaching history is important in helping them to understand this is you.
Well, we have the responsibility of grabbing them by the hand and taking them with us, so that they
Yes.
can see themselves in positions that quite often we don't see ourselves, right? We also have the responsibility, and I've seen some great people do this, like Missy Balmer and James G. They find these young people and they put them in spaces and say, "No, you go forward." And so we
Right.
also have the responsibility of moving out of the way and allowing space for the young people to enter that space and then lead, right? So I encourage folks to, we got to sit down at some point, right?
Right.
Um, but at the same time, I think that it could be intergenerational where we can both support one another. I have a very young team that's managing my campaign. And the added value of that is that I learn from them and they learn from me and we learn from each other. I think we need that, especially as a Black community, because there's so much that needs to be done to make sure that the least of us is represented, that we need all of the parts of the community, not just some. But it's really important for those of us who have been there and done that to kind of move out of the way to allow space. And so we can groom them so they know how to avoid the landmines that exist.
Right.
If we ever move out of the way and we wait until we're 80 years old, it's gonna be a huge brain drain, right?
Right.
So my only, if I had to say, take away from this conversation is, for those of us who are in this space, whether you're 82 or 42, like, we have a responsibility to take folks with us, and not just our relatives. Like, let's bring somebody else who's not related to us and expose them too. I mean, I have a 10-year-old, my great nephew is here with me, and I want to make sure that he gets to see things, but I also want to make sure that his friends get to see things too.
Right.
Amen to that. And going back to what you were saying about Black women in the Democratic Party, I just remember for Biden election for president and Kamala for vice president, they were depending on Black women to and through. And I remember for sororities, it was like stroll to the polls, et cetera, et cetera. And so the party has this idea that we need them for this, but not for that. And that also translates for the youth as well. Like, hey, we here for this, and that's all we need you for. But then when it's time, but if they're showing interest in other ways or want to be involved in other ways, it's like, oh no, it's not your time, or that's not your place, or you have to wait. That one kills me. You have to wait. Like, what am I waiting for? Like, you didn't wait. That's crazy part. And so creating this, and it's not just only like for Black women, but that's how I believe, is my opinion, right? How people in different categories see it as well, in terms of like, you're only using me for this. And once you use me, then I know, and you get what you want, then I'm no longer relevant. And that's just not how people work. That's not the dynamics. And so I appreciate you taking the stand, running for the position for a multitude of reasons. And then also including, you are truly, truly qualified for it. When you were just running down your resume, it was just it just makes sense. Like, wow. And you acknowledged it. You had these little parts, which they're not little, but you have these pieces, and then it's making the bigger puzzle where you're qualified to take a seat, such as being the secretary of the DNC. And so that's very, it's representative in a multitude of ways. It's representative of who the Democratic Party relies on, is representative of people that have truly put the work in, and is prepared for such a seat. Because when people get in roles and then folks say, hey, they're not doing what we want them to do, it's like, well, because they weren't truly prepared for it. They don't know what's really going on, and there's a learning curve for everything. But if there's this learning curve gap, then how could you truly utilize the position in which it needs to be utilized in?
That's why it's really important for us as a community to remain connected. Because even though I may not have an answer sitting in New Jersey, I may know someone in Texas who's been there and done that, or someone in California who's been there and done that. And so we have to get back to being connected with our own community so that we can find those resources. I will say that in this process of running for secretary of the DNC, I've been fortunate that people have come from all over. My campaign manager, she's based in Texas. The person who's doing the whip, she's from Philadelphia, but she's based in South Jersey. My team goes as far as Texas, and as far north as I think it's probably in New York. But when it comes in as far as south, I think as probably North Carolina. But the good thing about being in this virtual world, for those of us who are older, we did this with conference calls. But this virtual world specifically, you can connect with people all over the country, all over the world if you need that, to find the expertise of someone who's had the experience. But we have to get back to getting connected. And unfortunately, a lot of this is like breaking into a safe to find the organizations that we need to be connected to. So you were on the school board, and for those who were in municipal government, like Donna, their organization, whether it's NBC Leo for the local elected officials, or NACO for county officials, or NBCSL for Black state legislators, or the Association for Lieutenant Governors, or states, Secretary of States. So those are or Conference of Mayors, or the African American Mayors Association, or the Democratic Mayors Association. There are a lot of little entities that can help us identify whatever skill set we need. We just have to know who to get to, right? Or go to get the information. Because once again, as I mentioned earlier, knowledge is power. That's another group, but knowledge is power. And so it is important for us to network with, to connect with people and organizations that can help give us that exposure. Some cases, the NAACP, because they know most of these organizations, or the National Congress of Negro Women. But I will say sororities are now becoming more civic minded in the political space than ever before, whereas previously they're mostly social not social organization, but service focused. Now they're getting more into the civic side, and that's a good thing. So there's an education component, and then now you can bring that back to the community. But we really have to get back to being reconnected, and I really miss the old BIC, that Councilman Tucker ran, because it was a entity that brought us together from all over the world to discuss policy and how policy could impact us. And it helped us with networking in particular, so that we could make sure that we were in spaces and places that we didn't really know about, but that organization gave us the exposure to the things far and near that we could participate in.
And I would also like to add one more thing. I want to add, I'm high school class of 85. I don't know what happened, but I know when I was in high school, our mayors and our council people, Senator Rice used to always say this: there's an election season, and once you raise your hand, there's a working season. And where we have gotten a way of trying to not bring our elected officials into the school want to show them the job, but make sure they're engaged at a young age. My first trip to DC was a senior in high school, where you sit down with your senator and they explain. Um, I just think that we have to get them engaged as soon as, and thank God for the new law at the school board at 16 years old. So we have it over there, but we have to get it on a municipal side as well. That by the time you're 30 and 40, we have to get back to. I registered for to vote in my senior year in my civics class in high school, and I don't see that happening as much. So when you are elected for the DNC and you cross that line, I know everybody's talking about civics, and I see different organizations coming out teaching more about the Constitution, but we have to engage them as soon as, and I would even say seventh student government. That's where it should be at, and make that connection to when they become adults and how they play roles and everything. That it's an ever learning process.
That is true. And yes, school is a resource for the masses, but those of us who can should also take the kids to DC, take the kids to Trenton, take the kids to City Hall. We can do that ourselves as well.
Right.
Definitely the schools have more resources, and probably let's say more resources to do it. But we also have a responsibility ourselves. And I didn't go to DC until I graduated, or I was in college. I was in college the first time I went to DC. I think it was in college. But you guys are like, right now, we are 3 hours from DC.
Mm-hmm.
A train ride, a bus ride. There's so much to learn. Like, take the kids on a Saturday, just a 1-day trip down and come back, and let them walk through the museums and see the city and walk through. I mean, we have members of Congress who have tickets to take for kids to go on a tour of the Capitol, tickets to go to the White House. Like, we should take advantage of these resources. Right. And it's really important for, hopefully elected officials will share this information that, by the way, you can go see the Capitol. Because people are coming from all over the world to see our Capitol, yet we're 3 hours away and we haven't been there.
Right. Exactly.
Precisely. There's something that the school district, Marq, the Marq Board of Education implemented, where every grade has at least one trip, no matter what school you attend, no matter what principal you have, because field trips become very financial and budgeting, etc. But the district, again, the Marq Board of Education, implemented a policy that every grade has to do some type of field trip. And when I was on the board, I recommended for 4th grade that they go to Trenton to visit our state capitol, because they do tours at Trenton State Capitol building. And so it's like you said, it's a lot of resources out there. Schools do have more resources and have more abilities, because that a larger population of children, concentration of students, and then the budget for it. But there are plenty of organizations out here that tap into that, and it is up to us to make sure that the burden is not only on schools, because there are other opportunities as such to do it. And my first time, I'm not gonna say my first time in DC, because my first time in DC was most likely for a family reunion, but my first time in DC, dealing with politics more so, I did something called Princeton Model Congress, where Princeton University took high school students and they taught them how to write bills and how use Robert's Rule, and then we go down to DC, and we were part of like the House Committee of Education or the Health Committee, and you debated your bill with your colleagues. And who knew that existed? But that was a partnership between Princeton University and the summer camp that I went to, that took urban students from Trenton, Camden, and Newark to expose them to life outside of the inner city. And so there are definitely plenty of opportunities out there, and we have to be very intentional about that. It is 8:04. I know there's another guest, and I do know that Lynn has a jam-packed schedule, so I don't want to hold her any longer. However, there is one question that we ask all of our guests. I remember this because I thought it was so cool. That we ask all our guests on All Politics Are Local. And so, Miss Marilyn, what is your favorite rapper or rap song?
My favorite rapper is KRS-One.
Okay, all right, KRS-One.
KRS-One
I don't know if
very
Hawk is
deep.
in the background, but how can you hear that? KRS-One. Okay.
Is that his favorite too?
There we go. There we go.
Peace, Queen.
Hello, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for all the wonderful information you shared with us. Something that we all need to know in terms of getting politically engaged and how to do it. I just want to say that, like, understanding the process. When you say sitting at the table, what is that actually? Where is the table to sit at? Not every table is the table that we're talking about. And you did a great job in explaining to our listeners what table we should be looking to put pressure on.
Absolutely.
That said, I was mentored by KRS-One. My name is Hakim Green, Channel Live and Direct, BDP, all day, every day.
No way!
Spark mad ism, but of course these days we spark mad wisdom.
No way! Wow, it's so funny because I first met KRS-One in Milwaukee, and like 20 years ago. I was working on a campaign in Milwaukee, and he was there for the African American history. It was a African American. It's a festival in Milwaukee, and we hit it off. And I mean, I followed before him, but that moment, the time spent with him, just having conversations about politics, and it was very deep. And he's a deep brother, and he does not get the recognition that he deserves.
I don't think so. But gotta give respect due to the Honorable Mayor Ras Baraka, who opened up the doors to the now Temple of Hip Hop, located 55 Ludlow Street in Newark, New Jersey. KRS-One has an official school museum in Newark, New Jersey called the Temple of Hip Hop. So yeah, he's doing.
Wow. Okay, I gotta check that out. Thank you.
Yes. And just so you know, I'm co-founder of an event called 24 Hours of Peace, Peace, Love, Unity, Safely Having Fun, which is a 24-hour peace festival we do in Newark, New Jersey. And we've been doing it since 2010, since Raz was the Southward councilman. And, we got it in Newark, and we've been setting the stage for the rest of the nation, pushing peace, love, unity, safely having fun through hip hop, arts, and culture. So I just want to let you know, you got to come this year, August 22nd and 23rd, right there on Springfield Avenue. Yeah.
Count me in.
And so thank you again, Miss Marilyn. Sending you all the peace, love, and vibes. Thank you for joining us here on All Politics Are Local. And
Thank you.
We're going to send you all the well wishes for. Wait to call you Madam Secretary.
Congrats! Madam Secretary. Yeah.
Take care, Lars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we're doing legendary things here on All Politics Are Local. We have a super legendary hip hopper in the building, DJ Clientele of the world-class Wrecking Crew, LA's finest, who is now mayor of California City. Salute, brother.
Is he on mute? He's muted. Mary, you're on mute. Unmute yourself.
I don't know if you can hear us. You're muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you, Mayor.
We
can't hear you.
Unmute. You're on mute.
There we go. You're unmuted. There you go.
There we go.
Mic check 1 2.
There we go. Thank you, sir, for being a part of our show. All Politics Are Local, based here in Newark, New Jersey. Yes, all politics are local, but we have to build bridges around this nation to do the things we need to do, and know that we got hip hop in the building in California City is extremely special for me. Salute to you.
Now, Hawk, am I missing you? Did you say what city in California?
California City.
California City in California.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yes. I've never learned California City. Okay.
Yeah. So, with what's going on right now on the West Coast with the fires and our families, friends, our people dealing with this tragedy, we thought it would be important to have somebody who's, close to home on the ground out there,
Exactly.
kind of dealing with the fire and the relief efforts. So to have Mayor Marq Hawkins, aka DJ Clientele of the World Class Wrecking Crew, I think is pretty awesome. So thank you, Mayor, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. And how are you? How are you, Mayor? How are you and your family?
We're good. We
Good.
are actually about 100 miles north of LA. So the fires didn't hit us, the winds didn't hit us, the embers didn't flow our way. But we've been working with folks down in LA and in the surrounding areas, Pasadena and Altadena. So it's been a rough time for some, and we're here to support them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sending prayers up for you, the state, and I guess always, I know how you're gonna lead this, but first, please tell us how can we help? I know you're on the ground. How can we help?
The main thing is, a lot of folks have been displaced from their homes,
Mhm.
and thing that folks can do to send, essential items. Um, they've lost, all personal items, clothing. There are a lot of organizations that are down there now doing some really good work and are basically, meeting certain needs. But we do have some of our more marginalized communities that we're looking to make sure we help more. A lot of the people in Malibu will be fine, but the folks in places like Pasadena and Altadena and a few other of the surrounding areas, even in some of the Hollywood Hills, that's where most of the needs are. So whatever you can do to donate to organizations that are down there, that would be the best thing right now.
Yeah. So we talk about hip hop culture, not just rap music. And your history in the culture and the industry, to now where you are as mayor of California City. To talk about your journey. Coming from the World Class Wrecking Crew, history before that, and how you got to where you are now.
I started out, as a kid growing up in South LA and Compton, um, just really trying to figure out how to navigate and maneuver through those streets, right?
Mhm.
And I grew up with a lot of the cats from the neighborhood who, some of them, went off and did some good things, but many of them ended up in gangs or on drugs or in prison.
Mhm.
But the one thing they told me, because they recognized that I had talent early on, is like, man, don't even worry about this stuff. We'll do that music stuff. We got your back. And they always supported me. But through all of that, it was more for me about representing, and representing well, because I knew that there was a certain narrative that was out there about young black men. And I always wanted to be the counter to that narrative, and change that and show the world that, there were things that were different that we had to offer. So in that regard, um, it was really about, how we make the music that reflects what's going on in our neighborhoods and in our time. And in terms of creativity and being a creative, I always like to explore and go into different areas. So when I hooked up with Dre and Yella and Lonzo and the Wrecking Crew and we formed that group, it was really more about that than it was anything else. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that the Wrecking Crew is not just the four guys that you see, on album covers or in shows. We had a team of 30 plus people any given day because we ran a nightclub. We had other businesses going on. We still had a mobile DJ business. So we still did a lot of that. And out of the Wrecking Crew, I learned a lot about business, more so than just creative stuff. So I was able to transition that into other areas, starting my own record label, to then eventually starting my own production company, finishing college, moving into teaching and academics. But I always kept my mind close to community work and community organization and social concerns. And I did a lot of work with nonprofit organizations and grassroots organizations and community organizations. And when there was maybe an issue or something like that that would come up, I was always there on the front line. And I started to meet a lot of folks who were in community services sector and would lend my support and help in any way that I could. So when the opportunity came initially for me to hold any kind of elected official seat, it was a council person had resigned or stepped down, and I applied for that seat, and it was down to a couple of us, but they ended up going with a third option because they were deadlocked. They just couldn't agree. So when the election year came up, I was first encouraged to run for a council seat. Well, then other people came along and said, "Nah, you know what? Run for mayor." And keep in mind, the only elected office I had ever held in my life before was a senator in college. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll give it a shot. In fact, I actually started going to the council meetings because my daughter had challenged me. She said, "Hey, Dad, there's not a lot for kids to do out here in California City. So what are you going to do about it?" So I started to go to the gym and I saw that kids were huddled. There was one basket broken and the other one's barely hanging on. So went to Big Five, put some nets up, started volunteering there. Then I started going to the council meetings and just asking questions about, hey, what can we do for kids out here? What can we do for our residents out here? What can we do to meet the needs of the community? And really wasn't getting the answers that I was satisfied with. So when it was time to put the hat in for a position in city government, I went on and put my hat in for mayor. Now, keep in mind, it wasn't an overnight thing or an easy task. I knocked on personally about 700 to 800 doors, in town, just talking to people, just asking folks, "Hey, what would you like to see different? What do you want in terms of your city? How can the city best meet your needs?" And I just listened, over and over and over again, and I kept hearing the same thing reoccurring. You know, uh, we need jobs. We need our roads fixed. We need economic development. So we need, stuff for kids to do. Boom. That was my platform. And I just kept hearing that message home over and over and over again until finally, the people spoke and they believed in me and that the message resonated enough with them to when they decided who they wanted to vote for and trust. The majority said me. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, being mentored by KRS-One, I've been able to adopt certain philosophies. One of which is that hip hop is not what we do, is how we do it. People get confused and think that rap music is hip hop, and no, hip hop is actually a culture. And it forms the way we communicate with each other, forms the way we network, forms the way we build. How would you say hip hop has been a plus for you in terms of winning the mayorship in California City?
Well, hip hop raised me, and in fact, it saved my life because, like I was saying earlier, if I didn't have hip hop to lean on, who knows what I would have done? Maybe I would have went off with the homies and did stupid stuff instead of going to do the music and create beats and DJ and practice and all of that. So, but it also taught me discipline, um, perseverance. How to stick to things, how to plan, how to program, and really how to do grassroots work because we would hang out on posters, pass out on flyers, we would do it on advertisings. So with all of that knowledge and understanding of really how to reach the people, it was really a smooth transition. I mean, our street teams, our poster hangers, how to, basically you know, touch various communities, really was it was old hat to me. So it was a no-brainer for me to go, hey, I'm gonna go out here and talk to the folks. I'm gonna meet people where they're at. I'm gonna knock on their doors. You know, I'm gonna take my golf cart and ride around the whole city and pull up and just talk to people. And that's what I did, and those were the results.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a disconnect with politics and government right now in our community. Um, you know, growing up in the 80s, you know, I wouldn't say we were as politically active as we should have been. I know toward the end of the 80s, early 90s, I got real active on the grassroots level. Um, but then we kind of fell off. Like I think after Obama won his two can, since then our politics have kind of changed and shifted, and we've become, I would say, way more conservative than I would have thought, say, 12, 15 years ago. How do we inform our people about where power is and how to leverage it? What would you say?
Well, I think we have to understand that politics is life. The decisions that individuals are making, in local government, in state government, and national government, do affect our lives. Now, at the national level, it may not be as immediate, but definitely at the local level, you feel it. You feel it right away. You feel it in the taxes. You feel it in, whether or not the roads are being fixed. You feel it in whether or not, um, certain, um, you know, city funds are being allocated in the right way. So you feel it right at the grassroots level. And it's one thing to ride around the streets and complain about this not being working right or this not being done right. That doesn't look right. But what are you going to do to change those things? What are you going to do as an individual to fix it? And when they talk about government, they say the they this and they that. Like, who are the they? The they is us. We are the one who elect those city officials and those politicians to go and represent us. So, you know, what are you going to do in terms of your civic duty if you have a problem or a complaint or an issue? You have to get involved, and you have to stay engaged. And that's what the key is staying engaged because speaking truth to power, being a watchdog to power is very important because they'll saying power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you have to be aware and vigilant and engage at all times in the politics because it truly does affect your life. So what I would encourage people to do is to get involved, is to continue to be a voice, for your neighborhood, for your community, for your people, for the marginalized and the most vulnerable populations in our society.
And even Mayor, I would even say for the West Coast at a local level when NWA, when they were trying to be censored and how Ice Cube really took it right to the, through through press conferences and we're worlds apart, like East Coast, West Coast, but I don't know how that affected, but I know even looking, like be it the movie or going back and looking at old footage, I don't know how that affected the young people, but I know when I had the opportunity to serve for 12 years as a council person and legislation around with the jeans, slouching, and a lot of councils wanted to write law that would affect, if they saw young people with their jeans hanging, they would get a ticket and not realizing that going to have a conversation would have been the more efficient thing to do as opposed to trying to engage them with the law because of how they chose to wear their clothes. Um, but I definitely know, like with NWA, that probably was a great example. And I don't know, what current legislation, but sometimes we don't think. And I know for me, I went to the corners and I said, hey, some of my colleagues are thinking about writing legislation because of how you wear your clothes, and it caused those young people to come to a council meeting. So there are definitely ways we can engage them. We just have to, one, not be so quick to think that we can fix a problem by writing legislation to stop somebody from doing something, as opposed to just talking to them.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing to write a law, right? But it's a whole other thing to be able to enforce it.
Right.
And if the enforcement piece, you can have all the greatest laws on the books, but if that enforcement piece is not there, then it goes nowhere.
Mm,
But also, just to go back to what you were referring to in terms of you know dress codes and culture. With hip hop, as we know, it's part of our culture to dress a certain way, to look a certain way.
mhm,
As you pointed out, rap music is not hip hop culture. It's just one piece of it. Hip hop culture is more than just you know what we say. It's also what we do. It's how we live. It's how we operate. And when it comes down to it, it's a form of expression. So that dress, that attire, that hat, those jeans, that shirt, all those things were part of the hip hop cultural fashion piece that was in line and in alignment with the DJing, the rapping, the graffiti art, the street art, um, the b boys and b girls, and the knowledge piece. So street entrepreneurialism. So hip hop itself was the thing that allowed us to have an identity, and that attire was a way to express that identity, at least one way to express that identity in a string of things, a host of things that we did. And when people didn't understand it because it didn't conform to what their sort of normal was, then it made them scared, or it made them uncomfortable. And but the thing we have to realize is that it also opened the door for dialogue and exploration and understanding to people who were willing to open their minds. And now you can see that hip hop has influenced the entire world. It's everywhere. The culture is everywhere. The fashion is everywhere. The vernacular, the linguistics, and the jingoisms are everywhere. So it goes to show you the spirit of hip hop that it embodies. And like I said, it's always a big salute to hip hop, and I'm always 10 toes down for it.
Now, you said California City is about 100 miles north of LA,
Yes.
but you grew up in LA.
Yeah.
So, since
Yeah, I grew up
since
in
well, since the days of World Class Wrecking Crew, NWA, and so forth, like, that part of the world has had the rest of the world um, captivated. So when we see fires that are happening right now, we all feel the pain. Of course, not being in it, we're not in the fire. So our brothers and sisters out there really, going through something. But I just wanted, perhaps you could help us understand logistically, Palisade, Altadena, these different sections that we're hearing relative to, New York, New Jersey, size, the amount of people that are being affected, the difference in policy as it relates to Palisade versus Altadena, the racial dynamic, so forth and so on. If you can help us understand that.
yeah. So okay, it's all sort of LA County there, right? And LA County is really huge. It's large. It's a fairly nice sized county. All of those various cities they're in LA County. Uh, Palisades is a little closer to Santa Monica, which is they're both close to the beach. Altadena, Pasadena, a little more inland, and closer to LA City and Glendale and places like that. But the fires affected those area in spots, and then they spread. And just in terms of the demographics and the logistics of that, um, there is a sort of an economic difference. Closer to the beach, you tend to have the more affluent areas, the more expensive homes and condos. And it's prime real estate. It's the beach. More inland, mid to lower income, areas. And Altadena itself was home to a large black population um, that migrated from LA into this particular area near Pasadena. So the the logistics of that says this. Um, First off, Karen Bass does not run Pasadena. She does not run Santa Monica. Those are separate. Those are actually separate cities in LA. But um, LA County itself is ran by a board of supervisors, and so it's more or less their responsibility to take care of the county as a whole. But the individual mayors in the individual cities, it's their responsibility to take care of their own particular cities, if that makes sense. So when people say, blame her for certain things that happen, it's slightly unfair because she's a mayor of one city. Several cities were affected by it, and some of those cities don't have the same resources as maybe in LA does because LA is larger. However, it's important to understand that all of LA County was affected by this.
And then Karen has her own problems with ongoing problem with with the homelessness. That's just continue. It's just a problem that's a very challenging problem. But I- from the federal government, for your president, for our president elect, for the president elect, and the vice president elect to make comments about the lack of understanding or how it's being handled out there, when I don't believe they've even set foot in California to date, unless I haven't been updated. Um, is that something that you just have too much that you just kind of brush it off your shoulder? Do you have any response when they make comments like that?
Well, you have to brush it off because right now people are in need, and
Hmm.
it's no time to be, you know, quip about um, taking shots at California, which last time I checked is one of the 50 states in the United States, and it's quite disingenuous for anyone to uh, you know kick a person when they're down, and
Right.
kick a state when it's in need. I just think that we have to exercise a greater level of empathy and understanding, regardless of whether or not the majority of folks in that state voted for you or had your back or whatever. It's people
Hmm.
are people, folks is folks, humans are humans, and it's
Right.
important that in time of need we do what we have to do to help. That's it.
Right. Period. Well, I know I had the opportunity. Unless there was a conference in LA and I came, and my cousin lives in Sacramento, and I had the opportunity take to go up to Sacramento to see her while I was over there. And I remember getting off the plane, and I think it's the City of Paradise, that was the name, and they were kind of going through the same thing, and you could smell the fire as soon as I got off the plane, and they were doing the same thing back then. So I know this is and then one of the things I like to do is get educated and understand, and I talked to our fire chief here, and he began to explain to me once the winds get to a certain level, it's almost how we would look at a hurricane. You kind of have to wait for it to pass before you can even begin to do anything because the winds were so high. Um, how and this the fires, I mean, it's like we deal with hurricanes, you out there, kind of fires, earthquakes or something, your natural disasters. um how is it that you can prepare individuals that when you see this coming, evacuation we know is one. Are there other ways?
Well, first, you have to always have a contingency plan in place, right? Because
Hmm.
you know, city officials have to understand that we're responsible for a lot of lives and making sure that um, we do have uh, the mechanisms to respond, um, and that also takes communication. It takes training. It takes always updating those plans and just making sure that you're prepared at all levels. You have evacuation centers, you have contingencies in place, and the folks who are responsible for that are properly trained and are continuing their education in that regard. So when a natural disaster does take place, um, we can mitigate risk. We can reduce the level of threat as much as possible, because there are obviously certain things you can't plan for, particularly with natural disasters. And last time I checked, it was Mother Nature one, mankind zero, right? Because Mother Nature
Hmm.
always wins out. So yeah, you just have to have the right plan in place and continuously to update it and just be prepared. You know.
I know you had a fire chief. She was speaking, and I was like, wow. Um, Tremendous, just to see the amount of people you have on the ground waiting and how you stage for each for the turnover and everything. Um, I know one of the things that you're going to have to deal with is the insurance agencies, and I guess that's something we all have to deal with, whether it's a hurricane, earthquake, when insurance agencies decide to pull out of an area. Um, is there anything that down the line, looking at strengthening legislation that we can stop making, I don't know, so convenient when they decide to pull out, or to hold them more responsible?
You know, when you get insurance, it's supposed to be a policy or a belief and understanding that the insurance company is going to take care of take care of you, right?
Right.
It's important that we do not allow the insurance companies to be let off the hook for taking care of its clients, because what happens is, uh, if the insurance companies sort of renege on the policy. I'm not necessarily saying that that's what happened here, but then what do you get any insurance for? What's the purpose of paying for that insurance, right? So it's important that we do have legislation in place that strengthens and protects the people, and protects the clients who are paying into those insurance policies, and for them not to be discriminated against when they need insurance. Because um, if you're living in an earthquake zone or a fire zone or a flood zone or a hurricane zone or whatever it is, you know that eventually that could happen. There's a higher probability, right? And insurance companies are aware of that possibility. So the legislation that would be necessary would make sure that A, those policies are solid. B, that the insurance companies are aware of where those policies are covering. And the process should be really easy and streamlined. It shouldn't be um, leaning on, we don't want to give you the money versus, we it's important that we take care of you as a client. So that's what has to happen with the legislation.
Thank you for that. I keep you talking because I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you touched on it earlier, but big thing is Trump and JD Vance suggesting there'll be strings attached to this aid in an attempt to kind of corner California Democrats to act in a certain way. It's quite surprising, since I don't know who said it, but it was like there are more Republicans in the state of California than like many of the other red states. So it is quite disheartening to see them leadership, quote unquote, threaten to hurt all Americans in California based on politics. And I don't know, well, we do know what to expect over the next 4 years, but how hard does that make your job in terms of serving the people of California City, knowing that the federal government is as supportive as they could be?
Well, the one thing that we have to look at first off is when there is a natural disaster like this, the aid should be unfettered. There should be no strings attached whatsoever. And there shouldn't be any manipulation of the situation, trying to take advantage of vulnerable and people. And obviously, we know that the incoming administration has a certain agenda and feels a certain way about people. But what we have here is an opportunity, and that opportunity says that, look, regardless of which side of that political aisle you sit on, we have to look at this thing as helping people. Because I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot and they needed the aid, they wouldn't hesitate to ask for it and would be happy to get it. So the to politicize disaster is disgusting. It's shameful.
Right.
So we really have to take a step back, understand that people need help, and regardless of whatever your thoughts are about the politics, throw them out the window and give them the aid and the help that they need.
Insurance is probably one of the hardest bills to pay because you may pay into an insurance policy for years upon years upon years before you actually need to utilize it. So it's like, something to have when you need it. And then oftentimes, when I was in the military, I was stationed in Florida, and I can remember walking around during hurricanes, and some of the residents will say, well, as bad as this, my house was harmed, I finally get to utilize, the policy that I've been paying in for over 20 years or something like that, So it's challenging, but I know whatever we can do and we want to do. I know I was in Walgreens the other day, and their campaign up now is you can send money, and there are other, like you said in the beginning, there are different other avenues you can use to be able to help indirectly or directly. But we look forward to being a partner, and you have a direct line to us, even if it's something that you specifically want us to do. Here, and all politics are local. Please don't ever, hesitate to ask. If you have an idea or something, please bring it to Hakim so we can be a partner if should you need us.
I'm I've been dubbed the hip hop ambassador.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I've been dubbed the hip hop ambassador to the city of Newark, New Jersey. And we do an annual peace event, peace festival called 24 Hours of Peace every year. We've been doing it every year since 2010. We've had everybody from Latifah, KRS, Fat Joe, Rakim, Kane, Talib Kweli, Common, Fabio Foreign, G Herbo, Monifa, Moni Love, Maya, Rage. The list goes on and on. Last year, we did an all-female ensemble for 24 hours straight. We started 6 p.m. on Friday. We go to 6 p.m. on Saturday, straight through, no breaks. House music from 12 to 4. We do yoga, health and wellness. We do a gospel ensemble. We feed over 100 seniors. And this is all courtesy of the spirit of Ras Barack, who understands the power of hip hop and how to utilize it. I just want to send an official invitation to you for this year's event, August 22nd, August 23rd. And perhaps we can bring 24 Hours of Peace to California. Got to hit up my big sister Tina, see what she think. But we're working on it.
Don't forget our own Lords of the Underground, our Westport councilman.
That's right, Westport councilman for the city of Newark, New Jersey. Hip hop in the building. Of course, Ras Baraka is a spoken word par excellence. But we have the hip hop mayor on right now, Mr. Marq Hawkins, aka DJ Clientele. DJ Clientele, what hip hop artists are you listening to right now? Who's supplying your soundtrack for life right now?
Oh, okay. Kendrick Lamar, man.
They're not like us.
They're not like us.
They're not.
They're not like us, huh?
They're not like us.
They're not like us. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate you being on. I got Tina supposed to be coming on. I just resent her the link. If you don't have to go, please stay. Oh, here we go.
There she spoke up.
The queen, Tina Marie Tyler, Hip Hop Institute for Peace.
So you can turn your phone the other way. Oh yeah.
Turn it this way.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
A little challenge here. Where's Clientele? Happy New Year, you all.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Did he leave?
He, because I seen his light had went out. You know, when you have the the video on, it uses so much energy. I know I have mine on back.
I'm still here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, excellent. He's still here.
Yeah. That's what I said. That's right. So he may be here. It just might be on voice. Is this and Tina's West Coast as well?
Mm-hmm.
West Coast now.
Tina's West Coast. I had the pleasure of meeting Tina Marie Tyler through her work with the Universal Hip Hop Museum. Big shout out to Rocky and the whole team. And Miss Tina has just been a super duper resource for me and our work with 24 Hours of Peace, of course, with hip hop. She's been doing some tremendous things, not just on the West Coast, but all around the nation through Hip Hop for Peace. She does a project called the Hip Hop Science Project, which is phenomenal. And she's been a stalwart at connecting powerful entities within hip hop culture. Of course, connecting us with Mayor Marq Hawkins, the legendary AK DJ Clientele, having him on the show. And she's doing some tremendous work around this relief effort with the LA fires. So I thought it'd be to our advantage to have this young lady on our show.
Well, I'm honored actually to be here, and excuse my dress and attire, but it's been nonstop. I just, first of all, thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for bringing some attention to the work that Hip Hop Institute for Peace is doing. I gotta say this real quick before I get into everything. Shout out to Queen Teresa King, who is and Silky D, who is the first female West Coast DJ. They have been boots on the ground for the last like 4 or 5 days, just being able to service some of our people in the greater Pasadena, Altadena area. So definitely wanted to give them a shout out, and shout out to Matthew 25 Ministries, who is bringing truckloads from the East Coast to the West Coast so that we can have supplies and things for folks. Last weekend, we were able to service about almost 3,000 families.
Beautiful.
And that is not only with people coming on site and being able to pick up supplies, but also going door to door and dropping off supplies to people. I don't think that anybody that hasn't been through a natural disaster like this can really understand the magnitude of what we're talking about. Los Angeles is never, ever going to be the same. It's just not. And we are doing what we can do right now in the crisis, but we still have these fires going, and we're making headways with the fire department, as these winds are dying down. But when they kick back up, oh my goodness, it's like another burst of energy for the fire. So for me, and for Hip Hop Institute for Peace, I want to make sure that we get the resources to the Black and Brown communities. We have people that are on our team that also speak Spanish and that are helping with our brothers and sisters from the Hispanic community. We're helping folks be able to fill out their FEMA applications, find additional resources. We're dropping off pallets of food and non-perishables and household supplies to churches. We're just we're trying to do our part in being able to support. One of the things, the other thing that is very, I think, important for people to understand is that global warming and climate change is real. And if you want to be a climate denier, that's fine. But I think the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. We have not only fires here, but we have had tremendous fires and tremendous climate events all over the country, whether it's the hurricanes in Florida or the flooding in Houston. These things are escalating. These are not just normal, things that happen. These are crisis situations. And organizations like Hip Hop for Peace and other of the community organizations, we're not equipped. We're not crisis managers. We just know who the folks are in the neighborhood and the communities that we need to make sure that we service. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do in the way in which that we can do it. We are providing culturally competent counseling to people, both on site and on their phones or on their laptops. We have partnered with Telehelp 24/7, who is it's a tremendous organization that's run by Mr. Rob Adams, and they have about 67 licensed culturally competent therapists that speak a variety of different languages who are available to help folks. And then we are setting up a once a month kind of check-in for folks. If people want to drop in, that's free of charge as well. If people want to drop in and just be able to fellowship and get some good energy, they can do that. Right now, I think what we're seeing on site is people are walking wounded. They're in shock right now.
Shock, yeah.
And people just have not been able to process what's happening. Now, some of the areas like in the Palisades and in Malibu, they've opened it up, and so people can come to their homes and see what's left, if anything. But in some of the other areas, like some of the areas in Altadena and Alameda and some of the other areas, the residents can't go back in because it's too hazardous. There's hazardous materials, there's down power lines and a bunch of other stuff. So they haven't been able to see the extent of the problem and of the damage. And so we want to make sure with Hip Hop for Peace that we advocate for our folks of color. Because when the money is coming in, I'm telling you, you got $2 million here that's coming from this organization, $5 million from this organization, and I'm waiting to see how much of that money is actually going to get to Black and Brown communities.
How much is going to reach? Yeah.
Exactly.
But Tina, we have one of our hosts, Zaid. He's actually traveling. He's not here.
Okay.
But one of our partners is the Ironbound Association, and Maria, who's had the opportunity to sit at the table with President Biden around climate change, would be a great resource. And so I'm going to put her contact in the private chat for you. And when you get an opportunity, should the opportunity arise, give her a call, let her know that All Politics are Local referred you, because she has just been doing the work around climate change and just um, helping people to understand that this is real, and we have to live our lives differently. Now, I know that the West Coast has done some tremendous work from like years ago. I know from even how your air quality at one point was this way, and y'all have made some tremendous strides. But climate change is serious, and we did have a scare here in Jersey in August. We probably didn't have any rain for a great period of time, and we began to have small pockets of fire in different areas. No, by no means at the level you're having it on the West Coast, but for us to begin to have something like that added to the what we have with our hurricanes and everything, it became something very real to us. And I had totally forgot about it until Governor Murphy gave his state of the state this week, and he mentioned that how we can think about or what's going on if you multiply it times what's going on the West Coast. But we had a little bout with it here because the climate is definitely changing, and we have to re-educate ourselves and start taking care of our planet.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can,
We
can
have a. Oh, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just want to piggyback off what Donna said because I think it's very important. There's like, the conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theorists are having their way right now, and I don't know how plausible they are. But to take into consideration what Donna just said about New Jersey, who's not known for fires, but the
Right.
climate being what it is, not having rain for such a long stretch, sets the condition for natural fires to occur. Now, when you talk about California, who's drought can be months sometimes, and tremendous heat. You can see and understand how fires just start from nowhere. So I just wanted to maybe get your thoughts on that, Tina.
Well, listen, I've lived in California for over 30 years, right? And I swear every year it seems like Malibu is burning. So that's kind of the ongoing, okay, Malibu's burning, Malibu's on fire. Not that it makes it easy, but it's kind of like we've been desensitized, right? And so because of that, when the first evacuation notice was given, everybody's like, this is something that we lived through. We know this is, the cost of us living here in this particular area. But this time, not heeding the evacuation orders, in addition to the high winds, caused the fire, it literally wildfire, going so fast that people just really didn't have the time to get out. And again, there's, you can point fingers on why, but at this particular time, people are in need. I have absolutely zero tolerance for the conversation about blaming and who's not doing what. There are people who are living in their cars with their children. There are people that are living in parks because they don't have anywhere to go. And so these are the people that we really have got to service. And I'm thankful for the community organizations that we have partnered with. I'm definitely very thankful to Dr. Chidi Najuku, who is the Director of Behavioral Health at Kaiser Permanente in the South Bay. He and his wife and his team of folks have come down and, committed their resources and given their time just to be able to counsel folks and just letting people know, that things are going to be okay. And this is a very arduous process. Being able to get through FEMA and some of the relief organizations is not the easiest thing, especially when you don't have your ID or your laptop to be able to, and some of the things that we all take for granted. So please pray for us, but not only pray for us, go to hip hop, to our website, the4peace.org, donate. We need money to be able to pay for folks. Volunteers are only going to last for so long. This is going to be a long, arduous journey to get our city and our communities back. And so please go on our website, donate, volunteer. We can use all the help that we can get. And also, Hakim, I also wanted to let you know that we are putting together a hip hop benefit concert led by Hip Hop For Us By Us. Okay. Not saying anything about Fire Aid, but hip hop is definitely not represented. And we got a lot of folks that love our culture but don't like Black folks. I'm not saying that that's the case there, but we want to make sure that we are able to, as our own hip hop community, as we have always done, we come together to support each other, and folks in our culture and outside of our culture. We are inclusive, you know. And so we are putting together, and Silky D is leading the way with that, has reached out to Representative Maxine Waters and others to get everybody on board. And we're going to have a benefit concert. And we're going to be able to showcase local hip hop artists and graffiti artists and B-boys and B-girls. And we're going to have people come out and talk about their organizations and the good work that they're doing. But we need everybody there, and we want to be inclusive. So
I want to make sure I get the website right. HH4Peace.
Yes. Org. It's HH, the number 4, the word peace, PEACE.org. And people can go on there. You can donate. You can get involved. we need all the help that we can get.
Okay, so our producer, oh man, yeah, our producer's in the back end, and I wasn't able to post. I just tried to post it in the comments.
Okay.
Donna, maybe you can help me out.
All right, tell me, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, and I'm typing.
It's HH, the number 4, peace, PEACE.org.
Wait, peace, like PEACE?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So HH4 peace.
.org.
Okay, we got it. Okay, it's in the
/
private chat.
We need donations.
We need donations. We need monetary donations. I think at this particular point,
relief effort.
yes, I think that at this particular point, we've got a lot of food and we've got clothing and household items. We still need to have those things, with the exception of clothing. We really need to have those household items, and people are donating appliances, which we're storing as people are rebuilding. They're going to need to have these things. But really, what we're hearing is that people need food vouchers. They need hotel vouchers. They need money for hotels. It's a day-to-day situation from what we understand, in the hotels for a lot of people. And that causes a lot of anxiety and stress and all of that. We at Hip Hop for Peace, we focus our attentions and our resources on our 3 R's. One of them is to reduce gun violence, especially within the hip hop culture and the hip hop community. The other R is to remove barriers to peace. And so clearly being displaced and losing everything is a barrier to peace, because if you don't have peace in your being and in your mind and in your spirit, how can you have peace anywhere else, right? And then the other R is to restore peace as a foundation of hip hop. So in removing the barriers, that is what we're doing, is we're trying to make sure that we are in there and we're providing opportunities for people to heal and to rebuild. And so that's why we're there.
I can't help but think of, I want to phrase this the right way, but because of the huge homeless problem in LA prior to the fire.
Yes.
Now with so many people being displaced,
yes,
with nowhere to go, probably no time to think about this now, but what do we do to create a safety net in the immediate future? Because it's like, it got really bad in LA. The homeless problem in America is bad. It's too many people without shelter across the country. But, LA had become kind of like a symbol for that. And now with these fires, like, what type of social net can we create, especially as hip hop, for our people in LA?
Well, I think that the homeless problem in Los Angeles, which Karen Bass inherited, right? It didn't just happen on her watch. So let's just put that out there. It's being exacerbated now by these people that have had to flee their homes because of the fires. I think that it's something that the policymakers and the elected officials are going to have to figure out. I do know that Hilton has come on board and is providing free hotels for folks, but that's going to fill up very fast. So the solution is, I don't know. I really don't know. I know that the firefighters are sleeping at the Rose Bowl in tents, so they can be closer to to the fires, and also there's just not a lot of places for us to be able to house a lot of folks. So I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that they're working on it. I do know that they're going to come up with some type of plan, but I don't know what that plan is, and I don't have a solution, unfortunately. I wish I did.
It's definitely unfair for anybody on our level to have these answers. So I didn't want to put you on the spot. As you're talking about what's going on, I'm just like, man, if we're having these issues now with support for Black and brown and underserved communities, what's going to happen, a month from now, 2 months from now, a year from now, 4 years from now? Like, we got to get on the ball and start thinking about each other, because unfortunately things are changing. And on the national political scene, that they're dealing with so many other things that, the people on the ground have to be looked after. And that's what hip hop culture is supposed to be about. So we salute and honor your work, Tina, with Hip Hop for Peace and all that you do. We had some photos up earlier. Again, we're like trying to juggle things in the back end, but I posted the on the ground work that you guys are doing. So if you just want to talk about those pictures, I'm gonna try to put them back up. Ed, if you're listening, I'm gonna put them back up so you can post them.
And
So,
Tina, I also put Maria's number in the private chat. You jot
oh,
that down.
thank you.
I think she, we don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes we just got to share information and resources, and sometimes that helps us to
That's
be more efficient. So,
That's right. That's right. Listen, I want to kind of piggyback off of, and thank you for that. I want to piggyback off of something that Hakim said. Hip hop culture has always been about us helping us, and
right.
we don't wait for somebody to come in and give us stuff. Right? Hip hop
Mm-hmm.
is about using what you got, using what you can get a hold of, and being able to make it work for you on whatever level, whether that is from the instruments or whatever, or just us coming together as a culture to speak truth to power. um, these donations that were given all came from Queen Teresa King's warehouse, most of them. And we had a variety of volunteers from the Church of Scientology that came out. They brought about 50 volunteers to help us unpack a lot of that stuff. And this was the first day actually that we were with their boots on the ground. And we were overwhelmed, not only with people, but just in donations and that type of thing. Like I said, I think that, community organizers like Silky D and Queen Teresa King, we're used to calling up and making things happen. This is a crisis, however. And so the
Mm-hmm.
magnitude of the need is more than what any one organization can solve and can handle. So that's why we are working with other organizations like telehelp and that type of thing to be able to provide services. This picture that you're looking at is from our Rat for Peace, which is our National Gun Violence Awareness Day event. But Chuck D, shout out to Chuck D. That's a photo of Chuck D and myself. Chuck and I were honored with the Presidential Volunteer Service Awards Lifetime Achievement Award for our work in our culture. And so we were given that by UNESCO and the United Nations, which I'm very, very proud of. But more importantly, we were able to raise awareness about gun violence and gun violence mitigation. And we have another event that's going to happen again on National Gun Violence Awareness Day. These are some of the photos of other folks: Dr. Angelina Ruffin, Dr. Stefan Alexander. We had John from Deutsche Bank that was also honored. And so it's just really, really very wonderful being able to be there and to acknowledge people and the work that they've done.
Wow.
Well, and Tina, several years ago, Dr. King, I believe it was Dr. King's family that came out
Mhm.
and said, let not his birthday be just a day to stay home, use it as a day of volunteerism.
Yeah.
And we know, well, we have learned that if Dr. King was still walking amongst us, I believe he would be right there and imploring us that we have to, do what you can do, but do something. And get out here and let's help, because you never know when you're going to be the one needing this type of help. So, you know, a lot of will be at different events. I know we work with People's Organization for Progress and Chairman Hamm. I'm sure this has been at the forethought of some of the work that People's Organization for Progress have does. So, we have the information and whatever we can do. And even if you get to the point where from the federal government, you need help in terms of um, a, a campaign letter writing, making sure that the legislators are doing what they're supposed to do and not um, waiting for is their area that need help, let us know, whether it's just for boots on the ground or writing a letter or something. Make sure you ask. It's never too much to ask.
Absolutely, and thank you for offering that. And you know what? Don't ask. Don't tell me it's okay to ask, because I'll be calling you.
That's right. That's right. Listen, I've and I'll inform Maria that we have given you a
Yeah,
number, so to expect,
Okay.
expect a call, so she'll hear from you and she'll be
yeah.
aware
That number
as
is in the
well.
private chat, Tina.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Super.
Yes.
Super.
So yeah, thank you for joining our show. We salute you for
Absolutely.
all the work that you do
Thank you.
around the LA Fire,
Thank you.
but just everything that you do with Hip Hop for Peace and upholding hip hop culture to the fullest. Now,
Thank you. I got a great team, by the way. Shout out to my team. I could not do this without them. Thank you,
that's right.
Rayshawn, Nakia, everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. 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 So this is a hip hop politics show. What artist out there supplies the soundtrack that gets you going?
Oh, it's Kendrick, no doubt.
Kendrick.
It's Kendrick. It's
Kendrick, all day, every day.
it's Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick. Yeah.
Not like
Yes.
us. Okay.
When the beef first happened, when it first started going at it, I've been waiting for decades for an artist like Kendrick to, unfortunately, we lost Nipsey Hussle. He was in that same, but when Kendrick came along, the themes that he carries, the way he approaches his art, I mean, it's just, he's that guy. So I was telling my friends who are Team Drake, Drake lost his battle. No, you're gonna watch a year from now. Well,
Right.
it's been a year from now.
Well, and I think the thing, and I hope as we begin to have discussions, because not like us, which was amazing, professors created curriculums out of it. I mean, I'm sure he's on another Nobel Peace Prize, but to see Drake in the court fighting, I was like, really, Drake? He's like, come on now, you've like taken this to. You went to court to say defamation, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I tend to stay out of those kind of conversations. But I will say this. I think that one of the wonderful things about living in the United States of America is that you can voice your opinions about things, and you have a chance to redress any kind of grievances that you may have in our justice system, no matter how broken you think it is. You have that right. So that's
right.
all.
And I worked in the criminal justice, so they said, but there's a frivolous lawsuit, they can still bring them up. And our lawyer's here, so he can speak to
Oh, that's a
that.
great segue.
So
Yeah,
Ed, I've been singing the praise of Tina Marie Tyler and Ed Riley for like what 3-4 years.
That's
We,
true.
we were planning the conference some time ago. Ed was one of the main conveners of that conference. He does all types of work. Our attorney, one of the executive producers of All Politics Are Local, Mr. Ed Riley. Meet the Queen, Tina Marie Tyler for Hip Hop for Peace.
Hello, Ed. How are you?
It is
I'm
my
giving
pleasure to
our
finally
gameplay.
meet you. I mean,
You
the
did.
reputation precedes you. So it is absolutely my pleasure to meet you. But I also want you to know
Yes,
that
sir.
anything you need from us, anytime you need to come on, any politician that you need to talk to, listen, me and Hawk, if we can be helpful in this show any kind of way, just let us know, and me and Hawk will go to work.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that. There are some definite political things that I'd love to talk about. I'd love to talk about the 2,000 people that Biden has commuted their sentences for. I can go on and on. There's stuff that we need to just unpack, I think.
and Tina,
But we,
actually, and even Kim Kardashian, the work that she's doing in that area is really interesting. In terms of her helping people getting their sentences commuted, she's done some tremendous work. So
absolutely. And I think people give her a lot of flack, but you know what? She's in motion doing some stuff.
that's
So
right.
while everybody else is sitting on their phone doing whatever, you know,
Yeah.
there's people out there that are actually getting things done and that are making a difference.
But from
So
a professional opinion, is Drake in the right space taking it to court, Ed? Or
Oh
he
yeah,
can, so he should.
oh yeah, he can. I mean,
I know he can, but It wasn't supposed to be another rap battle, but go ahead.
I think at this point, I think he's probably looking at all the folks, particularly all the money he lost because he's been exposed. So he's trying to come back. What can I tell you? But he has the legal right to do it.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's and I want to get away from Drake for just a second because I would like to know how you guys feel about President Biden having to reaffirm the equal rights so that women have equal rights of men. I mean, that was kind of a little bit of a backslide, and he actually had to say, no, women have equal rights. They're no longer 3/4 of whatever. What do you guys think about that? I thought that was pretty. I mean, in this day and age, you have to reaffirm the fact that women are equal.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with the incoming president, who's also the former president, he represents he represents a certain mindset that feels disenfranchised. Certain group of folks, white males, don't like to compete. This is supposed to be a free market system where competition rules, and we supposed to support the spirit of competition. But we realize that they really don't want competition. They really don't want to invest in the people of this country to create the best of all of us. They want to keep things to themselves, even if it means purposely installing unqualified folks for jobs just to show people that to them an unqualified white male is superior than a black woman. I'm gonna say it. Kamala Harris is a black woman who's more than qualified to be the president of the United States of America, considering she was elected for DA, elected for attorney general, elected for senator, appointed vice president. She has all the qualifications, but in their minds, she could never be qualified. So for President Joe Biden to kind of make that happen in the 11th hour, I think says a lot to that side and says a lot to the fact that he'd have to do that.
Their sense of entitlement.
I think, some people have said to me, we're nonpartisan. By the way, let me just make sure that I'm putting that out there.
Yes.
But some people have said to me, Tina, how are you going to work with this new administration? One of the things that we do at Hip Hop for Peace is we use music as a means of diplomacy. And part of my responsibility as being the president of the California chapter of the United States Federation of UNESCO is to make sure that we're using science and education and culture and art to promote peace, right? And so I think that if you look at things in its totality like that, and you look at the fact that, especially in hip hop culture, we have always spoken truth to power. And we have always not been afraid of being able to take a different path and a different road, right? But we have also worked with people who are willing to work with us. And I think that right now, with what you see with the Trump transition team and then the new administration that's coming in, is I think that there is a feeling that they don't want to work with us. And I think that we are going to have to demand a seat at the table, not expect that they're going to come at us with open arms. We're going to have to demand it. And that's what one of the things that's really important to me about our communities of color when it comes to these fires is all of this money is pouring in and millions of dollars of support. But I would hate for it to go to neighborhoods where people have second and third and fourth homes. I want to see the people that have paid their last mortgage payment, bought their house out, own their house, and then have this fire come and destroy it. Black folks.
Well, Tina, you're going to take on the spirit of Shirley Chisholm, and you're going to bring your chair with you to the table.
Well, I'm not only going to bring my chair with me, I'm going to bring my folks with me. How about that?
That's right.
Folks, I mean, it's all about us because we can't do this by ourselves. We just can't. We can't.
To that point, Tina, like, I get quite tired of us asking for things when we should be taking them. And, we take it via leverage, and people power is the most powerful entity. So through hip hop culture, we have the ability to organize the people to take what we want, and force people to deal with us. Not take as in, violent insurrection. No,
Yes,
nothing
yes.
like that. Of course not. But through power of truth, peace, love, unity, safety, having fun, and people will wake up and understand they need to come on over to the side to, so we can have a more peaceful world, a more substantial world.
I think that we ask for a seat at the table, we demand a seat at the table, but we let's just be honest about what's going on in the what has gone on in the United States. The politics and we it's not meant for us. It was never meant for us, right? The way that the systems were set up, it was never really set up in a way for us to win, right?
Right.
And now that we have the disparity gap in wealth, and it's so major, that how are we going to be able to compete in a free market system when we don't have those resources and the ability to make those types of things happen? And then sometimes just within I'm going to say the Black community, it's difficult for us to just kind of come together in one cause and with one voice. And that has also been a thing that has hurt us in being able to effectuate change. If we all got together and we staged to sit out for 72 hours and we didn't buy anything else but only from Black
Right.
vendors and stuff, we have the power of the purse, right? Because we are one of the major consumers, and we're also the first adapters of technology too. And then the other thing that we also have to think about is just the fact that culturally there are just some things that have excluded us from being as competitive as we probably could have been if the system and if things were set up in a different way. So I think that we have to be skillful in the way that we go about asking for for parity and inclusion. And I think that we also have to be very clear about what it is that we want, right? So if we don't
And
ask for
Tina,
it, we don't.
also, while you have Mayor Karen Bass there,
Yes.
let us not forget she has been at the federal level, and she came back to be mayor, and so she has some strong allies, who those relationships, and from at the federal level. So I believe as you build your network and your team, that you have strong partners that are going to help you get where you need to be, um, in a manner that people are going to be very surprised. So
Yeah, we move a little bit differently, and we have a wonderful partner. Kaiser has been a wonderful partner with us. They came in and supported us for our gun violence event. And they're supporting us too with being able to get some supplies and things like that for us to be able to give away to our community. So it is about strong partnerships, and it is about being able to bring the right conversations and voices to the table. I'm actually looking forward to this Trump administration, to be honest with you, because I think that our tried, tested, and true folks that have been leading us in terms of the voice of the Black community. I think that because of the history of some of those institutions with Trump, it lends itself to new Black voices coming in. And I think with that new perspective, not saying anything is wrong with the established, but I think that we're seeing a change, right? We're seeing a shift. Even hip hop, I think we've gone all the way to one end of the spectrum, that we're going to have to go back to equilibrium, because that is true for our planet. It's true for our people. We're always trying to strive toward equilibrium. And I think that if anybody asks me about this year and they say, Tina Marie, what do you think this year is going to be? It's going to be a year of transition, period. A year of transition, a year of self-examination. What type of country do we want? What type of hip hop culture do we want? What do we stand for? What do we mean? What are our values? All of those types of things are coming into question right now. So
right.
we need some leadership for sure.
That's right.
I think you spoke a real truthism, though. I think that one of the things I hear my brother Mayor Raz Baraka say all the time is that we can change our conditions if we just unify, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're right for what you just said. I think that if we could use those voices that we have in hip hop. I heard Minister Farrakhan say one time that Kendrick Lamar is really the guy right now in hip hop, right? That all hip hop artists really are feeling him. And I think that if that's the case, if there's a way to say we need somebody like that young brother who is conscious to organize, some kind of meeting in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, man, can we come together and can we say that, we're not going to support this until they do that? Remember, when LeBron James decided to stand up, right? Remember, the whole NBA decided to do what was right at
Yeah.
that time, right?
Yep.
Because they understood the value. And I think that he speaks that right now, right? And I think that
Absolutely.
if we have those kind of conversations, and somebody like a KRS-One, I believe, could be that catalyst to speak to that young brother, because I think that he and KRS-One is somewhat on that same level. He
Very.
would get, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think that somebody like you, Tina, I think what I hear from you is your level of wisdom and your experience. I mean, could speak truth to power in such a way. I'm really upset with Hawk that he took so long to bring you on the show, but I think my brother later. I love him. We're running out of time, Tina.
I'm
But
sorry. I'll bear that way, but I know it's all good because we have Tina and she's locked in. She's gonna be back.
I'll be back.
that's
I'll be
right.
back. And I'm going to see you guys in August, right? We're going to come and participate with you all in 24
24
hours
hours
of
apiece,
peace.
August 22nd, 23rd. Absolutely.
But Tina,
Let me say
but
one thing real quick.
go ahead.
So you
Hey,
talked about
Tina,
yeah.
before you say that, when you come to Jersey, we're gonna do you right. We're gonna make sure Hawk and
I'm gonna
all of
lay it
us.
out.
That's what I'm talking about.
We owe her.
Oh,
I know we can do it right. We can come in. We can do it
it's all
right.
good.
She gets
It's
the
all
red
good.
carpet treatment. She's taken care of, top to bottom.
That's right, Cleveland. You done got in trouble, Hakeem. You already redeemed yourself. Go ahead.
Oh, never,
What were you gonna say, Tina?
No, what I was going to say is that we are Hip Hop for Peace is producing, and I'm welcome everybody to give us a call, get on our website. But we are producing a global hip hop peace summit in
Okay.
November of this year, which is Hip Hop History Month, and that's all I can say right now.
Okay.
We're going to
Any
have.
solid dates?
We're looking at November the 8th, but we have to get clearance from the venue.
Okay.
That's quite prestigious. So anyway, that's going to be, what's going on. But again, we are about bringing people together to try to come up with some meaningful solutions. And so we welcome people from the hip hop community all over the world to join us in November in New York.
And what we want to say again is, Tina, you don't have to wait to be invited. If you need the platform, all you have to do is make a call, and
You
our
guys are
platform is your platform.
well. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate.
And you heard the boss said he just told you that, so
I
utilize it.
I appreciate that. I
Well,
always get big love from you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
You're
Hey, did
welcome.
we
Thank
ask an
you.
original question?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
And
Kendrick.
you said Kendrick. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Yep.
Kendrick have overwhelmingly been the voice tonight.
Yeah.
Kendrick.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
All right, y'all.
All right. Well, thank
All
you,
right, Tina.
everybody. I
Thank
don't
you
know if
so
I'm
much.
supposed to jump
Thank
off.
you.
I don't know how to get out of here.
Yeah.
Nope.
Peace, Tina. Thank you so much. Tina Marie Tyler, Hip Hop Institute for Peace. Hit that website, y'all.
Yes. www.hh4and peace.org.
Peace. Thank you, and continue lifting you guys in prayer.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, y'all. Listen, we want to thank you, Hawk. I guess everybody in the background, man. Everybody loved this segment, brother. Your first segment, you killed it, man. You know what I mean?
I'm glad everybody's happy. We try to meet the moment, and it's only gonna get bigger and better.
Yeah.
Like I said, Tina's locked in, and she has like a host. Her Rolodex is crazy, and she's opened it up to us and said that she can get us some heavy hitters. So wherever I can play, whatever part I can play, I'm trying to take it to the next level. All
one thing. That's right. Hey, that's what she said. She understand, the part that politics can play, man. So, let's just definitely make sure, man, that we're there to support her and to support LA, man, in any way that we can. And so I want to say congratulations to you, Hawk, on on your inaugural production tonight. Great job. Great job. So we want to, before we wrap up, let's just make sure we thank everybody and remind folks that Larry tomorrow is going to have, of course, his annual Dr. King March tomorrow. That's going to be at 12 o'clock and starts at the Lincoln statue right there on Springfield Avenue. So make sure you all come out tomorrow. It's going to be at 12 noon. And then, of course, we want to thank jMarilyn Davis. She's running for DC chair. Want to make sure that you guys support her in any way that you can, and thank Asia for
welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah.
welcome back to Asia. And then, of course, we thank the mayor, Big Brother, for coming through. That was a good look, and want to make sure that Brother is clear as well. That anytime Brother Hawkins want to come through, man, make sure that he is clear. And look, man, maybe we might produce something where we'll invite all of the mayors to come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be
You know what I
nice.
mean?
That'd be fine.
we'll
Well,
invite.
and I'm about to lose you. My energy is going short, but I just want to remind everybody that the Greek organization Omega Psi Phi does their annual breakfast in Montclair tomorrow, honoring Dr. King. The keynote speaker is Pastor Slaughter. Starts at 9, and it's on Elm and Orange Road in Montclair. And the church, but you can't miss all that purple and gold once you get to Montclair tomorrow.
Right. Hawk, you got any last words?
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Hip hop is in the building. We press forward.
All right. Well, listen, y'all, we thank y'all so much. On behalf of course, John Austin and Brother Zaid, the other co-hosts, we thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week with the Disciples. Of course, as y'all know, this is All Politics Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. And as my brother Zaid would like to say, we're gonna catch y'all in the whirlwind.
And DJ Rhino said, "Hey, he's here too."
Our brother DJ Rhino said he couldn't make it tonight.
Peace to the God. Peace to the God.